Yes, we greet you all in the name of Olodumare. I think, can everybody hear me? Can people hear me on Twitter? Are we on Twitter now? Sorry, we want to sincerely apologize to people that are listening to us throughout the world. We really want to apologize for starting 21 minutes late. This is our first time of going live, and there's a lot of tension in the air. Some of our people that were supposed to be in the media team, they were supposed to set it up, were not here, due to one thing or the other. But we are fortunately they are now back on. So we want to know if it's on or not. So I'll be waiting for the team to give me the green signal before we start. Thank you so much. We are going to start. So I hope. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We are going to start. Thank you. So, can people see me? Thank you so much, everywhere you're listening to us. We greet you all in the name of Olodumare. We greet you all in the name of the ancient. We greet you all in the name of the creator of heaven and earth. Today is another day for another edition of Yoruba Ronu. And today's topic is, we are going to be discussing geopolitics. And the geopolitics is going to be the 1,000 years of Yoruba history. And why are we here? And how did we get here? I really want to thank the entire media team, from the IT team to the software team, to the web designers, to the branding that really made this possible. It's been really a tug of war. You can see how tense it was, those of us in the background in the studio, because we are transmitting this from TY studio. And it was really tough. For those people that have had sleepless nights for the past 5, 6, 7 days to ensure that this dream finally becomes a reality. We've been working on this capacity for the past 6 years. And finally, this has become a reality. So I am the president of Think Yoruba First organization worldwide, an organization that is dedicated for the cohesion and the unification of the Yoruba people throughout the world into a powerful geopolitical bloc. The Jews have done it. The Japanese have done it. The Arabs have done it. The Germans have done it. Then the Yoruba people must do it. The lives and dedication and the future of the Yoruba people, no matter where they are, whether the Yorubas of Cuba, whether the Yorubas of Brazil, is all interconnected. Today's topic is a very important topic. Today's topic requires a form of emotional maturity. I am begging every Yoruba sons and daughters that are going to be watching me, that are going to be watching this replay in the next 1 year, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, in the next 100 years. This topic I'm going to is a topic normally I wouldn't have loved to discuss. I'm begging us, we must try as much as possible not to look at this topic from a position of emotional maturity. We must, from the position of emotions, but we must display emotional maturity. Thank you so much. So today's topic is 1,000 years of Yoruba geopolitics. The past, the present, and the future. I'm going to be juxtaposing Yoruba reality. I'm going to be juxtaposing Yoruba culture, Yoruba reality, history, civilization, renaissance with the following countries. I'm going to be using the Germans as an example. I'm going to be using the Chinese as an example, if time permits. I'm going to be using the Russians as an example. And I'm going to be using the European Union, European Union, Pax Romania, Greco-Roman civilization as a case study, so that our people can understand their position in the world. Because the problem we currently have in Yorubaland, where it seems that ethnic nations that do not have our numbers, that do not have our strength, that do not have our powers, are seemingly trying to vulturize our identity, vulturize our culture. They won't even want to create another ethnicity called Lagosian. Just the way some people are trying to create another ethnicity called Ilorite. Meaning that they are creating another identity called Ilorins, as if Ilorin is not a Yoruba identity. It is the same, I don't want to call, I'm on here, but it's the same madness we see also in Lagos, where some people are trying to create what they call the Lagosian identity, as if the Lagosian identity does not have anything to do with the Yoruba identity. And this is the way many ethnicities have been erased. This is the race many identities have been exterminated. And this is the way a lot of people have gone extinct. Once again, this is Oladimeji Bolarinwa, the president of Think Yoruba First Organization. By next week, we are going to get better. And we are going to start on time. And now we're already 30 minutes behind schedule. Today's topic, we are going to be discussing the following blocks within Yorubaland. We'll be talking about Ife. We are going to be talking about Owu. We are going to be talking about Oyo. We are going to be talking about Bini. We are going to be talking about Ibadan. And we are going to be talking about the Western region. And we are going to be talking about Lagos. Now, I've given you like 7 blocks we are going to be talking about. These 7 blocks are they played different roles for the past 1,000 years to actually determine modern Yoruba history. It is true that the Yoruba civilization is more than 20,000 years. We have the Iwo-Eleru anthropological and archaeological discovery in Ondo State, in Idonre. We also have different artifacts, different excavations that have been done at Ile-Ife and several at Owo, in several places in Yorubaland. But we are going to base, which is more than 1,000 years old. But we are going to base our conversation tonight to that 1,000 years of history. It is the inability of the Yoruba people to understand the geopolitics and this 1,000 years of history that has made it almost impossible for us to be able to have a consensus, for us to be able to speak together as one people in one unity. Sorry, that was network glitch. I'm back. So 1,000 years ago, a powerful civilization was born in a place in West Africa called Ile-Ife. When I mean the creation of 1,000 years, the creation of Yoruba civilization, or let us call it the Ife civilization, because the Ife civilization, Ife, no matter your anger against Ile-Ife, no matter your sentiment against Ife, maybe you are Bini, maybe you are, no matter who you are, maybe you are Oyo, maybe you are Ijebu, maybe you are Ugbo, the Lajes, no matter your own narrative of history, one thing is certain: Ile-Ife is the source of Yoruba civilization. And what is civilization? Civilization is the most advanced form of human culture. Civilization is the most advanced form of human identity. And not all ethnic nations are capable of building civilizations. Now, let's look at Africa currently in 2025. Which civilizations do we have in Africa? Which major civilizations do we have in Africa that has really, really impacted the world, shaped geopolitics within Africa and beyond? In North Africa, what we have is the Arab Islamic civilization. Across the sub-Saharan Africa, what we have is the Afro-Asiatic Islamic civilization. And what do I mean by the Afro-Asiatic Islamic civilization? That is where the Kanuri Islamic civilization comes in. And that is where you also have the Sokoto Caliphate, which is the Fulani Islamic civilization. So these are the civilizations that actually determine sub-Saharan Africa. So this is what we have. Secondly, we also have this, if you look at Southern Africa, there is no civilization, any great civilization in Southern Africa. They were just city-states, sometimes kingdoms, sometimes clans, sometimes Bantu, just, there's no great civilization in Southern Africa. And what do you have in West Africa? In West Africa, we have different empires. If you look at the empires of old in West Africa, like the Songhai Empire, the Mali Empire, and the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire, firstly, we had the Ghana Empire, from the Ghana Empire, Mali Empire, Songhai Empire. Now, the Mali Empire and the Songhai Empire became Islamized, and Islam became the state religion during the time of Askia, during the time of Mansa Musa. So when it comes to, are these in civilizations, indigenous African civilization, true and true? The answer is no, because it has been heavily influenced by Islam. Now, there's a difference between talking about civilizations and difference between talking about empires. You can have 4 or 5 empires at the same time, and they are still going to be using the same civilizations. I'm going to give you a good example. If you look at Europe in the medieval times, between the 15th century and the 19th century, and the 20th century, during the time of the Austrian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, you have the German Empire, you have the Russian Empire, you have the British Empire, you also have the French Empire. During the time of these empires, the Spanish Empire, one thing is certain: these empires were built on the Greco-Roman civilization, Christianized Greco-Roman civilization. Later on, when it got to America, and America also was created a Republican empire, terms like Judeo-Christian, Anglo-Saxon civilization came up. So coming back to Yorubaland, what we have across West Africa is nothing but Oduduwa civilization, or we can call it Ife civilization. This is the bitter truth. So it doesn't matter the different ethnonym we want to use. Ife civilization, Kotsojire civilization, Yoruba civilization. But the most common one that is acceptable is Ife civilization, Oduduwa civilization, or Yoruba civilization. So, but because of today's conversation, I'm going to base my conversation based on these three important topics, these three important ethnonyms. So, Ife, when they say Ife is the source of all Yoruba people, many people have challenged this. That does it mean that people have not been existing in different kingdoms, city-states, both city-states that once existed and city-states that are still existing in Yorubaland? Or is that what they mean? But what actually we mean is that it's like saying that Jerusalem is the spiritual homeland of all the Jews in the world. Now, if you look at the biblical times, not all Jews were living in Jerusalem. In fact, many Jews, even during the time of Jesus, during the time of Joshua, during the time of the biblical times in the Old Testament, many Jews never stepped the foot in Jerusalem. But they still saw Jerusalem as their spiritual capital because that was the seat of power. It was the seat of their spirituality. It was the seat where everything comes from. It was the center of the world. So that was what Jerusalem was. It's like what Beijing, Nigeria, from time, China also had different capitals, but I'm not going to go in there now. So that's how important Ile-Ife is to the Yoruba people, because Ife was a confederal state. We need to start breaking some things down. The Yoruba civilization was built on confederacy. It was not different from the Athenian Empire. The Athenian Empire was also called the Athenian League, or like the Greek leagues. You see, the Greeks were made up of different tribes, different clans. When I mean the Greeks, those are the ethnic groups that make up current day Greece. They were the people that built the Greek Empire during the time of Alexander the Great. Now, when we even talk about the times of Alexander, the Greek Empire, the Alexander the Great, this empire did not even last up to 200 years. When Alexander the Great died, he conquered, created an empire, and the empire was destroyed immediately after he died. So the empire did not even, in the real sense of it, the empire did not last 100 years. Yet it is always been romanticized by many scholars in Europe and all over the world, that this empire was very, very great. So you look at this reality, you look at what is happening, and you start asking questions, that there are so many empires within Yorubaland, within the Yoruba civilization, that even lasted 600, 700 years. And to keep an empire lasting up to that level, it requires a level of sophistication and greatness. The Sokoto Caliphate, the biggest and the most powerful empire the Fulanis ever built, did not last up to more than 100 years before it was broken into pieces by the British. Oyo Empire, Bini was an empire. Bini Empire, Oyo Empire, Ife Empire, many of these empires still lasted between 300, 400, 500 years, some into 600 years. So these empires are very, very great. So it doesn't matter. Maybe you are Oyo, maybe you are Bini, maybe you are Ife. It doesn't matter. Maybe you are Owo. It doesn't matter the Yoruba group or clan that we all belong to. We all have a share of the greatness to claim the heritage and power of this empire. Now, there are so many ethnic nations. In fact, in Africa, I can count with my fingers the number of ethnic nations that ever built one single empire. And if you look at the way the world is built, when you want to look at superpowers, when you want to look at great powers, there is no single great power that has never been an empire. Now, can I start counting it? France, part of the G5, was a superpower, was an empire. Germany was an empire. United Kingdom was an empire. Russia was an empire. China was an empire. United States of America is an empire. So there is no great nation and great power that was not an empire. None. Everybody was an empire. So there is a way. That's why you look at the way the world is structured. If you want to be a great power or a middle power, you have to have a pedigree. You have to have a history. That is why you must understand your history. You must organize your history. You must weaponize your history. You must empower your history so that your history is not used to destroy you. So that you can also know where you are coming from and you are not replaced or absorbed by a successor state. Now, the Yoruba civilization for the past 1,000 years is a continuum. How do you know an everlasting civilization or a great civilization? Empire rises, empire falls. But there is a way civilizations continue to exist. There is a way civilization continue. That is why it is called continuum civilization. Civilization continuum. So, and civilization continuum is that it is like a tree. Different branches, when one branch falls down, another branches shoot up, even though all of them are from the same root. And that root is the Oduduwa civilization that emanated from Ife. Now, I said the Ife civilization, the Ife as an empire state, it can only be, I'm going to give you similarities between Ife and Chinese empire during the days of the Middle Kingdoms. You have to understand that, there are different kinds of empires. And some empires are similar, while some empires are not similar. You have to understand this difference. You have to understand that some empires have different characteristics. The Roman Empire, at the peak of its powers, was different from the Greek Empire. The Greek Empire was different from the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was different from the Russian Empire. The British Empire was different from the German, Austro-Hungarian Empire. Very, very different if you look at their characteristics. Even within Mesoamerican history, before colonization and the Spanish wiping out those civilizations, the Inca Empire was different from the Aztec Empire. The Aztec Empire was different from the Comanche Empire. So they are different. So because even though many of them might still have the same traits, might still have the same features, might still have the same characteristics, they are very, very different. Very, very different. So because they are very, very different, you have to understand that you need to understand where everybody is coming from. And there is no empire within the Yoruba Commonwealth, within the Ife Commonwealth, within the Oduduwa Commonwealth that did not have the role that they played in ensuring we have these great people that some people call Yoruba, another people call Olukumi, another people call Kotu Ojire. I don't care the name you call yourself. We all know we are talking about the same people. But we have one opportunity. We can become unified like the Chinese, or we can become balkanized like the Germans. We need to choose our destiny. We are at the crossroad of history as Yoruba people. That is why this topic tonight is extremely important. And I want to bet it with you. Only few people can dare delve into this arena of geopolitics of 1,000 years of continuum of Yoruba civilization. Now, it has been established if there was a confederacy. What do you mean by confederacy? We have the Oduduwa group, we have the Obatala group, and these different other groups, other stakeholders, fighting for who was going to become the ruler of Ife. Ife was a center of philosophy. It was a center of fashion. Go and look at the glass beads, the technology that was being done in Ife. All the great pantheons, when it comes to great people, Now, these great people is people what we now call Orisha. In Orisha, it's not the same thing as gods. The most similar word to Orisha is saints. These are special people that have done great things. In Catholics, within the Catholic Church, in Catholicism, great people, when they are great, they achieve great things. What do? They turn them into saints. They turn them into saints. So that was similar to, and that particular reality what did not start. If the Catholics also saw it in Hinduism, in Buddhism, and other Oriental religions. So the Yoruba people also doing it does not mean we borrowed it from the Catholics. This was a global phenomenon for advanced civilizations. So you see people like Ogun, people like Oduduwa, these are great people. So you see Ogun is being said, is being credited with, like he's the god of iron. What did he do? Because of the advancement he brought to iron works. So that was how I went, and that advancement he brought to iron works made the Yoruba people to be able to become an advanced civilization. We were no longer a people that were just using stick, bows, and arrows to be able to go. We left the position of hunter-gatherers. We left the position of primitive people. We were able to use irons. And these irons, we were able to forge tools. We were able to forge tools of wars. We were able to expand and build cities, clear vegetations, conquered unconquered territories. We were able to conquer nature. We were able to produce foods at a very, very large scale. Because for you to be able to have a large city, for you to have a city of 300, 400,000 people, you need to be able to feed them. And because we were able to produce food in essence, in abundance, we were the first people to become urbanized in the whole of West Africa. And that was because of the technological advancement of people like Ogun. That was what people like Ogun, that's why they became saints. Now, that's not where I'm going to. I'm not here to talk about the epistemology or this priesthood, sainthood of Yoruba mythology. So I'm telling you what was happening at Ile-Ife. So I'm not here to also start when people believe, oh, Oduduwa came from Mecca. Oduduwa did not come from Mecca. It's absolute nonsense. To say Oduduwa came from Mecca, it's absolutely nonsense. Oduduwa was a Yoruba man and part of the people that fought. He fought to become the sole ruler. It was true war. If you look at the Obatala people that follow Obatala, you see them always spotted, they have white spots. It was because of, during that war of who was going to become the ruler, the war of who was going to become the ruler and unify the crown. It was Oduduwa that won that battle. So that was how the issue of successor. So when you look at the Yoruba civilization and Oduduwa taking the center stage was not through a tea party. It was through war. So the unification you saw, that was the first unification of the Edekiri people, of the Olukumi people, of the Yoruba people, that was done through Oduduwa. It was through war, some through diplomacy. That is why you go to places like and anyway, as we continue, we'll start expanding. So on these talks, but hopefully by next week, we'll be able to go into depth because there's a lot of places we need to touch tonight so that we can have an overview. We can now flesh it and expand it to understand where we are coming from and why things are. Why we can understand why this issue of this supremacy nonsense between one king or the other in Yorubaland should not continue. And because we need to understand where we are coming from so that we are not socially engineered against ourselves. Just the way Ukraine and Russia has been socially and geopolitically engineered themselves and they started killing themselves. Just the way the Ibadans and the Ekiti, Jesha, Parapo, were engineered against themselves and they destroyed themselves. Just the way Ibadan and Ijaye was socially engineered against themselves in 1861, and they destroyed another Yoruba superpower. We need to understand that the Yoruba land is a confederal power. So that one is settled. Now, while Ife was expanding, Ife strength, after when Ife became that superpower and Ife Empire was built, because it was an empire state, a lot of people started coming to copy the system, the spirituality of Ife. They started even asking for Oduduwa to send his sons so that they can come, they can be ruled. They started sending Oduduwa to send his sons so that they can be ruled. So that was what happened in Ife. And I said there's a lot of similarity between Ife and China. China was an empire who saw itself as the Middle Kingdom. Ife also saw itself as the Middle Kingdom. That's why Ife believes they are the source of creation. They are the source of all civilization. They are the source of all things. That's why you remember this song that Ile Ife, oh, Loju ti mo wa o. Some people say, oh, that is the third Ile Ife. Oh, that is the fourth Ile Ife. Some people say some Ife, you say Ile Ife, Akanlubebe. Some people say this Ife, those kind of Ife, different Ife. But we know we are going to base our conversation tonight on the 1,000-year history. Because once we go into 1,000-year history, we are going into ungoverned territory. And we want to be able to be academically intelligent. We want to be academically logical. So Ife is the source of civilization. Now, of the Yoruba people. Now, there is also a particular important thing we also have to know. I said if it was the Middle Kingdom. It was not different from China. China believed it was the Middle Kingdom, and it had the mandate of heaven. The same thing Ife was also having, that they have the mandates of the gods, they have the mandates of Olodumare to give crowns, to determine civilization. Those are the way, those are the things, the ideology is not different from the Jews when they said they are God's chosen people. It's not different. Everybody have their way. Everybody have something to say in order to give themselves appellation about the greatness of their greatness, what they've achieved. So China was also like that. That's why you see in China, it was from China. China was one that were the people that civilized Vietnam, Thailand, Japan, many of the Southeast Asian countries. They got their civilization from China, even Mongolia. They got their civilization from China, system of writing, civil spirituality, even though China also borrowed the spirituality from India. Buddha was an India. Buddha was from India. Buddha was not from China. But what did the Chinese do? The Chinese domesticated Buddha. In anthropology, in history, we call it signification. Because they signified it. They sinicized it, sinicization. Or to make it easy, to make it fun, we can call it Chinesization. Even the word China, Qin, was not even the original name of China. It's according to some historical sources, it was from Persia that called them Qin, and from Qin it became China. So you can understand that the world has always been a global village. And all this issue of you got your name from this, you got your name, our name was from Hausa, from Fulani, all those nonsense things that people are passing around actually means nothing. Who knows? Who can even go back and say that Korea and Japan, they were civilized by China? The same China, the same Japan, that now came back to colonize China in the late 19th century and the late 20th century in the most brutal way. If not for the Second World War, China, Russia, Japan would have annihilated and destroyed China. So you have to understand that history is a continuum. It is not static. So later on, Ife started becoming weak. It started to decline. Many things can cause empires to decline. It can be due to war. It can be due to economic sabotage. There's no economic power. It can be due to climate change. Food was not doing well. It can be due to biological, due to natural disasters. It can be due to disease outbreak, and everything start collapsing. It can be due to internal wars. So when Ife started winning in power, and Ife had always wanted to control the trade routes towards the Trans-Saharan trade route, and that was where the real Owu also, another Yoruba power. So Owu then wanted to replace Ife. So there was a tussle. And during this time, before this time, when Owu was emerging and Owu was becoming another, that's why Owu, when they say Owu Lakoda, because Owu is also an ancient Yoruba superpower that people we don't talk about. And when you start talking about it, because Owu played crucial role in the ethnogenesis of what we call the Yoruba identity and Yoruba power. But Owu should have also become an empire, but could not become an empire. It was cut short. That was why Oromiyan went to go and create that outpost. Oyo was a military outpost, a power broker, a base, same thing as Bini, Ile Binu. That's those two axes has always been the threat for the existence of the Yoruba people for the past 1,000 years. Today, you complain about marauders, bandits. Where are they coming from? From that same north across the Niger. Or today, you are complaining about some people coming from across the Niger from the east, trying to come around and start dictating and destroying Yorubaland and calling Yorubaland no man's land. Where are they coming from? They are coming from the east. So it has always been like that, those two threats. That was why Oromiyan went to create, in order to secure Ife, to secure Yorubaland, he went to create Oyo and went to create Bini. Those two places are military barracks for the Yoruba race. They are the shield. They are protected to protect Yoruba land. The greatest mistake, maybe by that time, we did not have another shield to protect us along the coast. The Jebu they did well, but we did not have enough shield along the coast because that is where the British came. When we were faced with threats across the east, we played the Bini fought and they protected their lands. When we were confronted with threats from the north, the Oyos, they fought, defeated the Yunupes, defeated the Bogus, defeated the Fulanis, defeated the Songhais, they even went to the west to defeat and crush the Ashanti Empire. In fact, they even also regrouped in Ibadan to go and destroy the religious extremists coming from Ilorin that was led by a Fulani warlord. So we need to understand where we are coming from and where we are going. So we have to understand that that Owu. So as I was saying, Owu was trying to absorb Ife, and that is what happens at all times. That's why many of us I love the fact that there is Dawn Commission. because we should not have a situation where Lagos State or Ekiti State or Ogun State will now be competing in a toxic way against Lagos State in order to absorb Lagos State. That was what happened during that time. Owu was trying to absorb Ife, and Ife had to start. In fact, Ife was now using Oyo to be able to fight Owu. Later, at a point in time, it was between Oyo and Owu. Ife declined in its economic power. Ife declined in having a proper standing army to be able to defend its territory. Because what happened was, when Oromiyan was going to Oyo and when Oromiyan was going to Bini, he took one of the best soldiers, technocrats, aristocrats, chiefs, courtiers. They were the ones that set up and turned Oyo into an empire, Bini into an empire. So we need to understand that is anybody coming telling you any other history apart from this, we need to stop it. So at that time, by the 13th, 14th century, towards the 15th century, Ife was no longer the economic, political base anymore. It became the spiritual base. And everybody from Benin, all the way from Benin to Oyo, to Ketu, to Ashanti, believed that Ife must be protected and given that right, because that was the seat of where the ethnogenesis and the formation and the creation of this Oduduwa civilization that has been able to withstand the sands of time. For a civilization to last 1,000 years, for an identity to last 1,000 years, it's not a joke. Even the regional system that we had in Nigeria did not even last 6 years before it got scattered. So 1,000 years, there has been war, pestilence, disease, slavery, all sorts of natural and human disaster, even divine disasters. Yet this civilization still continues to stand. So it is a very, very powerful civilization that is worth fighting for, that is worth defending, that is worth celebrating. Oyo defeated Owu, and Oyo became the successor state. When I mean defeated Owu, two people are competing. Two people are competing for a particular place. It's not like one killed another. No. Oyo became the successor state to Ife. And if Oyo became an empire that was greater than Bini Empire, it's the bitter truth. In fact, some people even argue that Bini was not an empire. But I still regard Oyo as an empire. Now, when Oyo became an empire, it expanded the territory of the Yoruba people and expanded it across the Niger, into Niki, into Busa, into Kanji, not those places, area of Kanji, the most places in southern Niger states was under the control of the Alaafin of Oyo. So it created a powerful base. It's controlled, if you look at the River Niger, it controlled that trade route. It was a gateway into the Arab world. It was Oyo that was controlling that power. Now, after that happened, after so many years, the Nupe people, they rose up and they burnt down Oyo. Now, there is one thing about Oyo people that I want you to know. Because the problem is that many of us we don't even know that within Yorubaland there is diversity. The way an Ekiti man sees things will be different the way an Oku man sees things. The way an Oku man will approach matters will be different from the way an Awori man will approach matter. The Yoruba people are the real definition of unity in diversity. And it's the same. For the Christians amongst us, you are going to see the Benjamites, the way they saw things was different from the way people from the tribe of Ephraim were seeing things. People from the Levites, and when you come on, those ones don't know more than going into the tabernacle and serving God. It was not different. It's different from the way people from Gad, the Ashers, were seeing things, or people from Judah were seeing things. So you have to understand that even even in your family house, the way your brother behaves is different from the way your sister behaves. Even amongst twin brothers, twin sisters, it is not possible for them to go and marry the same husband and like the same man and fall in love with the same girl. No matter how much no matter how much they are similar. The same thing happens within Yorubaland. So Yorubaland is diverse in its own right. Yorubaland is not in quote unquote homogeneous. There is no amongst the Germanic tribes, it's the same. You cannot think the way the barbarians think is different from the way people from Cologne think. The way the people from Cologne behave is different from the way the people from Dresden, Thuringia in Germany behave. You cannot believe that. You cannot be where the culture, the dialect of people from Saxony in Germany is different from the way people from Vienna, who are also Germans, behave. But they have a level of similarity, and these little similarities, we need to understand it and understand where we are coming from. And why do we have these differences? We have these differences because of our different experiences, our neighbors, our interactions, where we've been, where we've gone to, what is our history, what is our pains. Those are the things that actually shapes our identity, that actually shapes our behaviors. So that's the reality that we have on ground. So let's also go forward. We also have this situation. So when Nupe people came, that's why I said you have to understand Oyo people. Look, Oyo people believe. Look, there have been close to 5 Oyos. Oyo Ajaka, Oyo Igboho, Oyo Katunga, Oyo different Oyos, Oyo Ago. So Oyo have always been moving capital left, right, and center. And that is one of the greatest, that's how you know a resilient empire. The former capital of England was Winchester. It was called Old England. Now, the capital of England is London. People don't know this. If you know the history of England, you know this. The capital of England was Winchester before. Now it is London. So you can move capitals around. It is for strategic reasons. The former capital in China was like Nanking. Now the capital of China is now Beijing. You have to be able to maneuver. It is normal for you to be able to move your capital. At a point in time, when the Roman Empire was balkanized, the most powerful Roman bloc was not Rome. It was Constantinople, now called Istanbul. Constantinople. Go and read about Roman generals like Belisarius, who saved the Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire from collapsing after the Nika revolt. So you have to understand that doesn't make sense to an Oyo man. An Oyo man will tell you that does not make sense. Because within 1,000 years, Oyo people has changed their capital and location 5 times. So in the next 200 years, Oyo tó wà dẹ́n wò yẹn lọ́yọ̀ọ́ tó ń bẹ ní Oyo state yẹn might be to next year, it might be in Togoland or Yorubaland. That is who Oyo people are. They found a way that they can be able to take their capital around because they are always at war. They are always at war. That was why Atiba did what he did to take the Oyo, decentralize power and allow his warlords to have freedom, like Timi, like Shoun, like Ibadan, the Ibadans, like Ijaye, Kurumi. That was what he did. That was what Oyo Empire did. The Atiba did. He decentralized power for his own survival because he didn't want to go to war anymore. Because he prioritized survival. Because he knew he was a target to be destroyed by both internal and external enemies. And he now located and situated Oyo within the tropical forest for the first time in close to 1,000 years of Oyo history. Oyo has always been a savannah power. Oyo has always been a power that ruled through power, through military power. Oyo does not understand diplomacy. Oyo understands hard power. The reality of the Oyos is not different from the reality of the Russians because of how they were formed. So I've been able to tell you that. Now, don't not forget, now this is where Bini comes into play. Don't forget I'm talking about geopolitics. When the Nupe people sacked Oyo, they sacked Oyo and Oyo was relocated to Oyo Igboho. Do you know what happened? Nupe were now expanding and terrorizing the entire northern Yorubaland. And they were even raiding the Ekiti country. They were even raiding the Akokos. It was the Benis that stood up during that time and was now protecting and serving as the shield of Yorubaland. This history, people don't talk about it, but it's a bitter truth. That was the incursion of Bini into places like Ado, into places like Akure, into places like Owo, into places like the Akokos. That is why this incursion was what created Akoko Edos and created a mismatch between the Akoko people and the Edroid people. And that's why there's a confusion today. And some people are saying, oh, it is because of the missionaries that are giving our children, that gave our parents Yoruba. It's not true. It is because it is a mixture of people that migrated from Ife and people that are Edroid. That's why you have Akoko Edos. And unfortunately, they've now been placed in Edo State. If they were in Ondo State or Ekiti State, we're not even going to have this conversation at all. Because it would have been, they would have probably they would have fully identified as Yoruba. That's why some people said that identity sometimes is fluid. For some people, it's fluid, especially people that live in the periphery. So that's how Oyo. Now, Oyo was also a confederacy. Oyo was not, no. Oyo was a confederacy. Now, what do you mean by, what do I call Oyo as a confederacy? When Oromia was also living Ife, he was accompanied by also princes, like the Oluban, who was also a brother, half-brother to Oromia. He was also accompanied by Aresa. Those are all princes from Ife. Those are Oduduwa princes. They were the people, the warriors, the warlords, the chiefs, the intellectuals that came together to create Oyo. So it was these confederal city-states where Alafin was the supreme leader. And you also have people like the Okere of Shaki, the Asheyin. All these people were it was a confederacy. It was a country, it was a confederacy. It was what was perfected in Ife that they took to create the Oyo Empire. Now, later on, Oyo Empire started expanding. And as Oyo Empire became cosmopolitan, it absorbed millions of Baribas, millions of Hausas, millions of Fulanis, millions of Nupes. And they were all Yorubanized. Oyo was a colonizing power. Oyo is not just Oyo. That Oyo identity was forged by the Alaafin. There is no Oyo without the Alaafin. He created it. It's like saying you call yourself Bini, and you are saying you don't give a damn about the Oba of Bini. No, there was no Bini. What you had was Igodomigodo. Bini is an hybrid between Edo and Yoruba. The Bini identity is an hybrid between the Edoid, the Yoruba people and the Edoid people. That was what created Bini. Even Eweka or Wamika, the crown prince that took over from Oromia, Odede, Aroli Odua, was that great hunter, that great adventurer, the greatest empire builder I've ever seen in Africa. Full respect. That was how he was able to create. That was how they were able to create the Bini identity. Because Oromia also married a Bini an Igodomigodo native. Some people call it a princess. And that was how they created, she gave birth to Owamika. And Owamika, corrupted to Eweka, has always maintained that kingship to this current moment. And part of the entourage, the prince from Ife, that followed Oba of Bini, that followed Oromia to go to that war to expand the territory, the Yoruba territory, let me use it, into that axis, was the current descendant of the Oba of Use. The Elawure of Use was the senior brother to Oromia. But he knew, in Oromia, the senior, it was not on seniority. It was on power. It was on hard power. And Oromia was who he said he was. So that is why you see Hussein. Hussein was placed around that Okada. You see that area, Okada River. Or that Okada, where you have the university, is a Yoruba territory, it's a Yoruba axis. It means okay, Ada. That is the meaning of Okada. That's why you have a lot of Yoruba speakers there. A lot of Yoruba speakers there are not immigrants. Because that place has always been, that was the place where migration happened. So it was when they got to Bini, and they got to Godomigodo, and they created Bini, and a lot of the princes, that's why I said Elaure of Use was an Oduduwa prince. That's why they still speak Yoruba till date. And they created another identity, which is a Yoruba group, the Use group. So the Use group was created by the Elaure of Use. So let's go back into the Oyo axis. So I've said that by the 15th century, after Onupe sacked Oyo, so I've told you the orientation. You need to know how the Ife are thinking, how are the Bini thinking, how are the Oyo thinking. It is when you are able to place. That's why I don't get involved. I don't see why I cannot get involved in this kind of petty arguments. Because we understand we do not have the political, military sovereignty to use hard power to solve some problems in Yorubaland. And from now till tomorrow, we will continue to disgrace and insult ourselves on the social media. But we believe that we can use social engineering, just like what Amadou Bello used, to unite the house of El Kanemi and the house of Danfodio into a block. And that's what they created Arewa. We saw this, these people did it right in our face. Within 60, 70, 80 years. These are eternal enemies. The Fulanis are a different ethnicities. The Kanuris are different ethnicities. The Kanuris fought with their lives and crushed the army of Sultan Bello. What Uthman Danfodio and his sons could not achieve pre-colonial Nigeria was what Ahmadu Bello achieved through negotiation, politics, and social engineering. So we have to understand, talk less of people like the Benis, the Oyos, the Ifes, the Jebus, that we've been interacting for 1,000 years with the same shared affinity, shared heritage. So there are some things that we need to do. There's a kind of maturity that needs to come into place, and we need to understand some things. So Oyo was a cosmopolitan empire. Oyo was a multi-ethnic empire. But the Alaafin did something that was fantastic that they did not do, the Oba of Bini did not do in Edo. What did the Alaafin do? It was called the Yorubanization agenda. The Yorubanization agenda was what gave rise to the use of tribal marks. Apart from the issue of it was giving them identity, for them to know the class, the status, where they came from. Even though it was not just Oyo that was also having tribal, there was, even in ancient times, there were tribal marks from Ife. So you're going to understand that this thing it's not just an Oyo thing. There was, before Oyo, there was tribal marks also from Ife. If you go and look at the ancient historical artifacts from Ife, you are going to see some of these people, some of these artifacts with tribal marks. You are going to see tribal marks of Oromiyan when he was on the horse going to Ife, going to Bini. So let me stick to Oyo. So that was why a lot of non-Yoruba people became prominent power brokers within the Yoruba Commonwealth. A good example is the Shawun of Ogbomoso, who was a naturalized Yoruba man. Shawun of Ogbomoso was a Baripa war general who fought and defended the Oyo Empire. In fact, he was meant to defend that post. It was same thing as Ede. Ede was an Oyo colony. But same thing as Ofa. Same thing as Shao. So I'm not going to go deep into many of these cases because there's a lot of things to touch. So it was the creation of that Oyo. Oyo was a creation of the Oyo Empire. The language, the culture, the linguistics, the dialect, the tribal marks, their way of life, it was all a creation of the Oyo Empire. So it is absolute madness in 2025 to see somebody from Ogbomoso or somebody from Okeogun or somebody from some places in Kwara, from Ilorin, if you know your history, for somebody from Ibadan or somebody from Ijaye to be insulting the Alaafin. It's like you don't understand your history, and we understand that things have spoiled. We understand that things are not what it is. Or you say, oh, we are Ibadan, we are not Oyo. It's madness. Or I am Ede, I'm not Oyo. It's insanity. Oyo town is different from Oyo as a group. Oyo town is different from Oyo as a block. Oyo town is different from Oyo as a power broker. Oyo town is different from Oyo as a dialect. Oyo town is different. Oyo town in 2025 was different from the Oyo Empire. There are different things entirely. And we need to understand this reality. But the bloodline, the seat of power that created this particular block, which we call Oyo, today, which are the most populous Yoruba block, is the bitter truth. Within the space of Nigeria, in Benin Republic and in Togo, even to Ghana, they were created from the Oyo Empire. The Oyo stock was a product of ethnogenesis. of the Oyo Empire. So there's no history. In as much you are an Oyo dialect speaker, you are a product of the Alaafin of Oyo. It's a bit the truth. I am related. I'm a descendant of Kurumi, of Ijaye. But the reality is, even though the Kurumi was also disobeyed the Alaafin of Oyo, but history is history. We are not here to be emotional. Because if we look at history from the position of sentiment, we will burn down this house. Now, when Nupe people burnt down, they burnt down Oyole and they sacked it and occupied it. It was the Benis that started protecting the Akokos and those are area of Ekiti. I know some people are not going to agree with me, but this is just the beginning. This is an introduction of a particular history that we are going to flesh out. But what did they happen? What happened? I know some people, it did not happen because the Bini of 2025, especially with the way the Bini supremacists and nationalists, because of the pettiness of Nigeria, they are trying to rewrite history and create chaos. But I know with time, a lot of people are going to come back to their senses to actually realize that our destiny is the same, our reality is the same. And I know a lot of even the political leaders understand this reality. They understand this reality. The closest people to the Bini people within Nigeria are the Yoruba people. And we need to understand that for us to survive in the politics of geopolitics in Nigeria, we must align along civilization lines. Our forefathers have already demarcated all these things. So why are we now fighting all this pettiness and this nonsense? The empires are gone. The kingdoms are gone. It's the bitter truth. So that was when the Bini Empire also came into prominence. But when Alaafin or Potonyu, the first female Alaafin came up, even though he was killed in Shaki. Before she was killed in Shaki in battle, fighting the Nupe Baribas. Before, I think we're fighting the Nupes. The Alaafin of Poto built and rebuilt the Oyo cavalry as one of the most powerful cavalry in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. She died in battle. Now, let me now say something for those people that used to mock, they killed this Oba of Benin in battle. They killed this Alaafin of Oyo in battle. To be killed in battle, for the sons of Oromiyan to die in battle, is a privilege. Even for all sons of Oduduwa, the Obas in Yorubaland, is in now Oba Washen Lowo Gushi. Is in now Oba Washen gba spa treatment. I'm sorry, for Yoruba, powerful Yoruba monarchs of old, they lead their troops into battle, especially those from the descendant of Oromiyan. The spirit of Oromiyan, you must go into battle. Oba of Benin used to lead his army to battle. They were not bad. No, they were at the forefront of battle. The Alaafin of Oyo the Alaafins must go into battle. In fact, it was a form of joy. There were close to nothing less than 5 Alaafins that have been killed in battle. It was not different from the Roman Empire. When you see Roman emperors, you talk about Octavius, Augustus Caesar, Julius Caesar. You talk about the Greek emperors, like King Philip, or you talk about Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was leading his people into battle. Genghis Khan was leading the Mongolian army. Genghis Khan built the biggest empire and he was leading his people into battle. So to be killed in battle was a thing of joy. Was a thing of battle, was a thing of virtue. Because that is what you call yourself, a war general. You call yourself a descendant of Oromiyan and you are not ready to die in battle. So you go into battle, they did not feel that they are going to come back. I have to say some things because they don't understand how the psyche of the ancients. Ṣé mo ó wà ń bẹ̀ tí sọ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọmọ Yorùbá di ọ̀lẹ. Sọ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ kan máa sọ ìsọkúsọ, máa sọ ìtàn tí ò yẹ kán máa sọ náà sọ. So we also have to go into, so what happened? Oyo also declined. The emergence of Oyo ni ò jẹ́ kí, so I said Oyo was a savannah power. Oyo ruled from River Niger, across River Niger, across savannah, Papa, down into the Atlantic Ocean. There were 3 ports tí Oyo ní: Badagry, Uida, and Sabe, tí wọ́n ń pè ní Àjàṣẹ́ lónìí. It was Escaritos, òun ló sọ Sabe, Portuguese explorer, òun ló sọ di Port Novo. Ló sọ di Port Novo. Ṣé ẹ̀ ń pa àwọn náà tún change orúkọ Èkó náà sọ di, àwọn Portuguese náà tún sọ di Lagos. So you have to understand. So that's the reality. And the king of Sabe is an Onikoyi. So anybody with an Onikoyi is also Oyo. Now Oyo fell. The fall of Oyo òun ló dá gbogbo wàhálà ìsílẹ̀. Now kò ń ṣe gbogbo city states ló wà under Oyo Empire. The Ijebus were not under the Oyo Empire. The Ugbos táwọn Igbo fẹ́ insert ara wọn sí were not under Oyo Empire. Warri, the Shekiris were not under Oyo Empire. Some parts in Ekiti were not under Oyo Empire. The Kales were not under Oyo Empire. Owo was not under Oyo Empire. Torí a ní láti, Ìjẹ̀ṣà was not even under Oyo Empire. So a ní láti máa là. Ifẹ̀ was never under the Oyo Empire. Torí a ní láti máa là. And there is nothing, look, the Yoruba people were under the British Empire. Ṣé ìwà ni pé kí wọ́n jáde sí, oh, any British tí wọ́n ti di màmá ṣépè fún? It doesn't work that way. Empire rises, empire falls. At a point in time, the British were also under the Roman Empire. The Germans were also subjugated at a point in time. Some Germans were also subjugated under the Roman Empire. The Polish were before sometimes under the Russian Empire. So kini yi on yi ni, on yi lura wọn ni. At a point in time, almost 1/3 of China was under the Japanese Empire, where they were using almost millions of Japanese women for biological experiments in the unit called Unit 731 during the Second World War. Before the Second World War, towards at the end of the Second World War, it was the product of that experiment. See, America fi build one of the greatest biological weapon departments ní America dòní, and all the scientists, Japanese scientists tó ṣiṣẹ́ tí wọ́n ṣe biological weapon yẹn tán wà ní Unit 731 were all given immunity. These are people that killed millions of people, but torí data àti biological experiment àti result tí wọ́n produce, tí wọ́n generate, wọ́n fún wọn ní pardon. Kẹ́lẹ́ bá understand báyé ṣe rí, kẹ́lẹ́ bá understand ìbílẹ̀ ayé ó ṣe rí. Torí ẹ̀ ni ẹ fi gbọ́dọ̀ fi emotions wọn kan. Àwọn kìnnì kan. No, let's move on. Torí la fi ń preach pan Yorùbá náà. Now, Oyo Empire fell. Mo ti sọ tó máa ń fa the fall of empires. So I'm not here to talk about the Bashorunga and what happened. Daome kúrò nínú Oyo Empire. Daome kúrò nínú Oyo Empire. Àwọn Ẹ̀gbá wọ́n kúrò nínú Oyo Empire. Everybody started getting out of the Oyo Empire. Everybody started Nupe náà kúrò nínú Oyo Empire. Ìlọrin náà kúrò nínú Oyo Empire. Àfọ̀njá ló ṣe yẹn. That's why tí mo fi máa ń sọ pé ìtàn Ìlọrin ò rújú. Àfọ̀njá òun ló declare. Àfọ̀njá ló declare. Òun ló declare independence of Oyo Empire. kò ń ṣe álímì. Àfọ̀njá ló declare Ìlọrin, òun ló gba independence Ìlọrin, kò ń ṣe álímì. But what happened? Ọlọ́run ní jẹ́ ká ṣiṣẹ́ tó ló bí àjẹkalẹ̀. Ìtàfọ̀njá ṣe ò yàtọ̀ sí tí Lísàbí ṣe, kò yàtọ̀ sí tí Gẹ́sò ṣe. So many people started getting out of their empire, and the empire was finally defeated. Yorùbá, àwọn fellow Yorùbá warlords, Ọ̀yọ́ warlords, àwọn ni wọ́n dìtẹ̀ tí wọ́n destroy. Ọ̀tẹ̀ 1835 òun lẹ fi máa rí. Tẹ́lẹ̀ tó máa wá láti Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́, tó máa wá láti Ìbàdàn, tó máa wá láti Ifẹ̀, Ẹdẹ, tá máa sọ̀sọ́kúsọ lẹ́nu pé Ọ̀yọ́ wo. It's madness. Ọ̀yọ́ is not Ọ̀yọ́ town. Ọ̀yọ́ is a Ọ̀yọ́ group, and we are Ọ̀yọ́s. It's a bitter truth. I'm saying this fún ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń sọ̀sọ́kúsọ. Àtẹ̀yìn tí ẹ̀ encourage ìwà burúkú yẹn, ẹ má encourage ẹ̀. Because ìgbà tó yọ fọ́, ìgbà tó yọ dé wà, and before kọ́ yọ tó fọ́, ni mo sọ pé century of 19th century, between 1800 yẹn sí 1899, Yorùbá ò tí bọ́ nínú wàhálà tó tá a kó sí yẹn àti kò síbẹ̀. But torí pé irú wa, because that's why we said we are going live. Bóyá táwọn èèyàn bá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní rójú mi, tí àwọn èèyàn bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní gbọ́ gbogbo àwọn lectures tí Ọlọ́run fi sí ẹnu mi, gbogbo àwọn onísọkúsọ tó ń da ogun sílẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀dógún sílẹ̀ nínú ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, á tètè kọ́ọ̀bù wọn. Ẹ lè bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní fún wọn ní the right response. Before 1800, there was no major civil war nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. There was order. But like we said, in history, in geopolitics, in politics, and in anthropology, no empire rules forever. Empire doesn't rule forever. So what happened? Oyo fell. So when Oyo fell, it moved on. Now there was a battle. Ìgbà yẹn wá ní àwọn Portuguese, àwọn Britain, Germans náà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní ta ìbọn fáwọn coastal powers. Ìgbà yẹn náà làwọn different ethnicities náà bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní tún ní agbára. Àwọn Dahomey ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní in fact, the Portuguese, we were arming Dahomey to the teeth, because Dahomey was their biggest supplier of slaves. Dahomey sold more Yoruba slaves. I'm talking about the fun people. They sold more Yoruba slaves than any group in Africa. Because Dahomey had lost in Dubai. They would go to, for instance, they went to places like Uida. More than 80% of the 80 to 90% of the Yoruba people there sold them into slavery. They went to Ketu, sold 80% of the Yoruba people and sold them into slavery. Dahomey itself is a confederacy, is a cosmopolitan identity. The Fon identity is an hybrid identity. It's majorly a combination of intermarriage between the Ewe people, the Yoruba people, and some other ethnicities that create a Fon. Kaleba realize so. So the Fon too, because they were using Scotch to art tactics. Torí ẹ̀ ní successor state máa ń burú ju state tí wọ́n gbàgbára lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ lọ. Ẹ wo Japan that used to be backward for close to 3,000 years under China. Torí pé àwọn Britain, àwọn Europeans arm ẹ̀. They armed Japan to the teeth. And what happened? Japan started attacking. I know a lot of people are saying that I cannot round up in 8 minutes. You are going to give me 20 minutes because I need to be able to finish that continuum. Torí tí n bá parí ẹ̀, àwọn tí ọ̀rọ̀ òye, they will use this ideology. They will use part of my lecture. Wọ́n á fi ṣe agenda. So ẹ ní láti farabalẹ̀ kẹ́ jẹ́ kí n ẹ̀yin moderators ẹ jọ̀ọ́. Ẹ fún mi ní 20 minutes. We started this lecture 8 o'clock. So we are supposed to finish one day, at least ká lò wákàtí méjì. So mo ní láti parí. Kó mọ̀ di pé ààrẹ ń promote Ifẹ̀ over Sọ̀yọ́, ààrẹ ń promote Ọ̀yọ́. Kò sí irú nonsense àwọn ṣe rubbish yẹn nínú TYF. Ààrẹ yìí gbogbo dáadáa yẹn. We are for pan Yoruba and we are for Yoruba people. I'm a detribalized Yoruba man. I'm the definition of I'm a detribalized Yoruba man. I am not your first, but we need to set the record straight. Torí ẹ̀yin kan tẹ́ ń support one group. Ẹ wá ń support pé kíni àwọn ṣé ẹ rí tẹ́ bá create monsters kò sẹ́ni tó máa lè tẹ̀ mẹ́. That was what created Ìbàdàn. Ìgbà táwọn tìmí Oníkòyí tí wọ́n, I'm sorry to say this, they betrayed the Aláàfin Olúewu and he perished in war with the other 5 Bariba kings at the Battle of Eleduwe, and that was the beginning of hell in Yorubaland. There was displacement. There was no fulcrum. There was no power. Even the great soldiers and generals could not stand to fight because there was confusion in the land. So what happened? Everybody started moving left, right, and center. Ṣé ẹ̀rí tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní Northeast ni? Ẹ̀rí tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ Middle Belt ni? Where people can no longer go back to their lands and they are creating new settlements for them. Many of them will never go back to their ancestral homeland forever. That's what happens when there is war. Only few people are able to recover. That was why the Kwara, that axis of Kwara, which was a bastion of even across Jeba, bastion, full Sheribobo area, Moro local government here, Wayan Koni, there were a lot of Yoruba cities in there, tí wọ́n destroy in order to be able to destroy, in order to annihilate any form of Oyo Empire coming back. So, what happened? The refugees, tí wọ́n bọ̀, tí wọ́n wá tẹ̀dó, these refugees were not going everywhere. And like I said, 19th century was a big problem. Before Ogun Eleduwe and before the destruction of Oyole, even around that axis, only problem ti ṣẹlẹ̀ pẹ̀lú Owu. The destruction of Owu Onani was the first major refugee crisis we had in Yorubaland. Ṣé àgbẹ̀ mo sọ fún yín pé láti ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀ ni Owu náà ti fẹ́ rise as a superpower. Torí ẹ̀ ni a fi gbọ́dọ̀ bára wa sòótọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀yin ọmọ Yorùbá. We must stop this habit of destruction of ourselves. We must never resort to the use of war to sort out our differences. War was used to destroy Owu, and Owu was scattered all the way to Benin Republic. At the first time, close to 800 years ago, they were stopped from becoming an empire. Owu was also destroyed. You know that for Owu, Montaeru, in Kankan. But I'm sorry, Owu people are also Yorubas. They are my brothers and sisters. Momoriki Tamanki Owu, but Owu was destroyed. Was destroyed all over. Even then, Rumugan was safe. They destroyed it. And it was, in fact, Oyo Ife, because they said they felt Owu was Owu disrespecting Ife, and all these things. Owu was destroyed. But I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty because we must àwọn ìtàn tí ò bá ti ní unite ilẹ̀ Yorùbá èmi ò ní sọ. Now what happened? Ìtàn ṣe fọwọ́ ó ṣẹlẹ̀ sọ́yọ́ ó ṣẹlẹ̀ sí tó dẹ̀ mo sọ pé betrayer begets betrayer, tracing became tracing. Torí ẹ̀ làwa kan fi sọ pé we are not going to allow President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to be betrayed by fellow Yorubas. Ẹ̀yin Yorùbá tẹ́ ẹ bá ṣe, ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ ti jáwọ́ tẹ́ ẹ wà mọ́ tẹ́ ẹ ṣe ní 2023 because of your hate for your fellow. I'm telling you the truth. Some people voted against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu not because of anything, just because they said ṣé òun nìkan wá ni. Tó bá máa yí dẹ̀ nìyí ó ti lágbára lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ẹnìkan ń jẹ́ kílẹ̀ fẹ́ kó náà kúrò níbẹ̀ kẹ́lòmí náà bọ́ síbẹ̀ báwọn Yorùbá kan ṣe ronú nìyẹn o. Wọn ò mọ̀ pé you have to have a powerful figure in your midst. Ẹni tí Ọlọ́run bá dẹ̀ fún lórí ọ̀fẹ́ kó lead yín yẹn ẹ má destroy ẹ̀. You can also choose your path. Ọlọ́run á dẹ̀ ṣọ̀nà tí náà rere ṣùgbọ́n rọ́ they have ìwà burúkú yẹn kàn mọ́ destroy ara wọn. 19th century ní ìwà burúkú ìwọlẹ̀ Yorùbá o. 19th century ní cancer burúkú ìwọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá o. Kí wọ́n mọ káwọn kọ́mọ ní respect mọ́ kọ́mọ sọ̀rọ̀ jà o. Kọ́mọ bà nǹkan jẹ́ kọ́mọ jára wá sí òhò. It started in the 19th century. That was the century of civil war. We've not recovered till now. Now going forward. After the fall of Aláàfin Aláàfin Olúewu tó gbógun lọ bẹ̀tí ikú ogun ní pa kíkanjú ikú odò ló ń pòmùwẹ̀. So there's no big deal at all. Aláàfin this is normal. Aláàfin Ọ̀rọ̀pọ̀tọ̀ also died in battle. So there's no big deal. So it is normal. Even Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò dying in battle is a thing of glory. That was how the Japanese used to think. That's why Japanese wọ́n máa ń pè nǹkan ní seppuku. Wọ́n máa ń pè nǹkan ní they call it seppuku. That was the same thing. Torí ẹni tó máa ń kí Oníkòyí, wọ́n láwọn Oníkòyí. Àwọn tó tán bá gbọ́jọ́ kú, wọ́n á dẹ̀ máa lùlù inú á máa dùn tán bá gbọ́ ọjọ́ kú. Wọ́n máa ń pè wọ́n ní agbọ́tikúyọ̀. Wọ́n á ní ìrántí wípé iwájú báyìí náà fi ń gba ọfà. Those are valiant things. That is what our people are known for. Now, Oyo Empire fell, and Oyo Atiba decentralized Oyo. Now, there was a battle going on. The battle of successor states. Ilorin stood up. Ilorin was an Oyo city state who wanted to become another empire. Shari might said, àwọn Ilorin, till this current moment, ó ní pé àwọn ní successor Oyo Empire. Mindset tí Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ ó ní pé àwọn làwọn succeed Oyo Empire. I'm telling you, gbogbo àwọn tó ń gbọ́ mi tẹ́wọ́ láti Ìlọrin tẹ́wọ́ láti Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ ẹ mọ̀ tí mò ń sọ o. Mindset tí Ìbàdàn ní pé àwọn làwọn succeed Oyo Empire, which is true. So this is their mindset. Torí ẹ̀ ni wọ́n fi ń approach nǹkan. And mindset tí even 2025 ní orí renaissance ni pé Oyo Empire is no more now. So àwa ni olórí aládé nsìn ìtumọ̀ ni pé we have succeeded Oyo Empire. So tí alágbára kan tó dàda wá kan tẹ́ bá wo Tinubu sí mo fẹ́ example Tinubu fún yín ni o. Tí Tinubu bá fall lónìí, God forbid mi ìgbàdo lónìí jẹ́ ó fall o. Akọ́ká máa gbàdúrà pé kí wàhálà má ṣẹlẹ̀ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ni. Kó má ṣẹlẹ̀ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ni. Because there will be a brutal war of successor. Tẹ́ bá wo nǹkan sí àwọn kan tí ń position ara wọn. Ẹ bá wo Ṣèyí Mákindé ń position ara rẹ̀. Even Adeleke gan position ara rẹ̀. It's so funny. Arẹ́gbẹ́ṣọlá ni ò tiẹ̀ ní sùúrù, àwọn bàbá bọ́ọ̀tà tiẹ̀ ní àwọn fẹ́ tètè replace Tinubu ní síní. Wọ́n dẹ̀ ti gbà pé ọba méjì ò lè sí nílùú. So you have to understand where all this is going. Where that was what happened to Oyo. So Ibadan was now fighting left, right, and Ibadan became a monster. Now, Ibadan àti Ilorin were the two strongest. Ibadan were the two strongest. I'm not going to talk about the different wars. Now, torí gbogbo Amori àti nǹkan ogun tí Àfọ̀njá tó create ní Ìlọrin làwọn Alimi inherit. The fighting force, the fighting styles, everything. In fact, many ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn ọba ní Gbòmínà that used to be under the Oyo Empire, that used to be subjected to the Oyo Empire, that used to be down later on, wọ́n tún renege, wọ́n support ti Àfọ̀njá, that used to be under Àfọ̀njá, they just switch side and they joined the army of the Ilorins led by Alimi and his son, especially his son. Ọmọ ẹ̀gángan ló tiẹ̀ wá lead ogun yẹn. Ṣọ́rọ̀ mi yé, Shita and co. So tí ẹ bá rí gbogbo, so torí ẹ̀ ní the Ilorin army was a Yoruba speaking army. Torí ẹ̀ ní tẹ́ bá lọ wo Clapperton, ìwé Clapperton. Tẹ́ bá lọ wo, it was Samuel Johnson ló bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí sọ àwọn Fúlàní. Samuel Johnson, we can criticize Samuel Johnson. I criticize Samuel Johnson's some of his stories a lot, especially the history of Yoruba people where we are from Mecca. That's àwọn Fúlàní narrative nìyẹn. Tí Sultan Bello tó sẹ́yìn sí Ìlọrin tán fẹ́ pass sí all over Yorubaland. That's not true. Or pé gbogbo àwọn no. Or it was the Fulani army. It was not the Fulani army. It was the Yoruba army. It was the Yoruba army. But until Ilorin create, in tó ń pè ní a Yorubanized Islamic city-state. A puritanical Islamic Yoruba city-state. Bí Sultan Usman Fodio ṣe create an Hausa-speaking Fulani empire ní northern Nigeria. That was the ambition of Alimi, to create a Yoruba-speaking Islamic empire led by the Fulanis south of the Niger. That is why till date, the Fulanis, the Ilorins, see themselves as the custodian of Islam in Yorubaland. That is why you see places like Iwo, places like Ekpe, places like Ishayin fighting back and saying this is not true. You cannot be the custodian, and we cannot be a custodian of Islam in Yorubaland. So I don't understand this psyche, Lonnie. But you don't know. So I don't more geopolitical ambition. You must understand it, you must know it, so that you can know how to tackle them. Kini geopolitical ambition badon? Geopolitical ambition badon is that they created a Republican empire. Because that was when Ibadan stopped listening and cut off their laughing totally. And Ibadan became its own a short-lived Republican empire. It's an empire. It was an empire. That was the only last empire of the Yoruba people. It was forged in blood and iron. We don't pray for such empire anymore because it was built on the destruction of our fellow Yorubas. But advantage Ibadan ni pé Ibadan la fi crush Ilorin. and to stop learning from becoming a nuisance to the rest of us and destroying Yoruba civilization and replacing it with Islamic civilization. That was what saved the civilization of the Yoruba people because of that battle of 1840. So much is one important event. So Ibadan was the successor state to the Oyo Empire because defensive, but there is that is the most powerful force. What is the most powerful force? And it was an Oyo-speaking empire. At point in time, Ogunmola was still pro-Oyo. Well, Aláàfin and everything. At a point in time, Latos Age Ogun Ẹ̀dànù. Tó fi di pé Aláàfin Adéyẹmí Alówólójú was now writing letters to the British to come and stop the Ibadan army, and even also supporting the embargo so that Ibadan will not be able to get access to war and ammunition again. Because what Ibadan was trying to do was to use force of arms to be able, for its own, it wants to be at the center, just like what Macedonia did to Greece. But we should not be using war as a means of unification. So during this period, Ibadan was the centerpiece. What the centerpiece? Now, let us now leave that. That was the end of that era. Let us go into what happened. Now there was a Western region. The Western region was the successor to Ibadan Empire. And what happened in Western region? In Western region, láti Bombay Doni láàrin ara wa again. In to destroy Western region, a lè máa sọ pé àwọn Fúlàní àti Igbo tó giri ò bá lanu aláǹgbá ò lè gbògiri. Torí ẹ̀ ni àwọn ọba ọ̀rọ̀ politics ọba ìwọ tó jẹ́ commoner ẹ má dá sí ẹ má dá petrol sọ̀rọ̀. Ẹ má dá petrol sọ̀rọ̀ ẹ má kílẹ̀ Yorùbá bàjẹ́. So that shall the last empire of the Yoruba people died after that treaty. After the treaty of the Kiriji War, where the Ekiti and the Jeshas, the Ondo, and the rest of Yorubaland, even in Ilorin, ganged up on Ibadan and fought valiantly. And everybody said there was no empire. Now, in Ibadan creates a new republican where anybody can become an Oba. So to talk about the Rikini and Shenisi, bóyá gbogbo system ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni wọ́n bá ti dàrú. And they would go through bloodline, but they would have stopped it. So you can understand. We could see irú system of empire building. Tí Yorùbá ò tí try. We are very unique people. The most Ife. Ife tried the Ebi system, where it was the Middle Kingdom. First from war, secondly through the Ebi system. In Tife trade, in Tife Sheniye. Later on, Yoyo came with his hard boots. Oyo she had boots. Later on, Yana failed, and it was through ascent bloodline. At a point in time, even Constitution Oyo was Aremo by Bodokpa. But that also Ibadan destroyed Ibadan, even though it was Alaafin Atibawa that wanted his son Adelu to replace him. And that was the issue that created a problem between Ijaye and Oyo and Ibadan. So into fight Janiye. So when I'm telling you that a lot of things has changed, Western region, not replaced Oyo, not replaced the last empire. And in the House of Chiefs, ibẹ̀ làwọn lọ́wọ́ now went back and now brought back the ascendancy. Okay, good o. Ife will be the permanent chairman. Ibi tí wàhálà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ nìyẹn. Ibẹ̀ làwọn Bini àti Ọ̀yọ́ ti sọ pé no. Ṣé ní gbogbo wàhálà yìí ọ̀rọ̀ supremacy yìí ibẹ̀ ni wàhálà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀. But I studied the northern region. Torí ẹ̀ ni it is very, very crazy. Can anybody máa underrate Fulani people? Sherry, ó better kẹ́ any ìran tó bá understand the statecraft kò lè parun láíláí. Ṣùgbọ́n ìran tó bá brilliant, tó mọ̀wé, tó lẹ́bùn, tó ní ẹwà, ṣùgbọ́n tí ò understand the statecraft, ìran yẹn ò lè last. Nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ní 2025 yìí, ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn tó ń jáde tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ bíi tèmi báyìí, many of them tó yẹ pé opportunity wà ní ó yẹ kí wọ́n kó gbó wọn sínú ibì kan ní kán mọ̀ yẹ kán sọ̀rọ̀ mọ́ sọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá because they don't understand statecraft. Geopolitics ni òye wọn. Kẹ́ ẹ gbé ìwé síwájú kẹ́ ẹ mọ̀ ní chapter 4 kìnnì kan kìnnì kan does not mean you understand Yoruba history. You are saying nonsense. Understand Yoruba history because you have zero understanding of geopolitics. Understand geopolitics. Torí ẹ̀ nínú a Yoruba man with PhD in history. So you understand the geopolitics. It is an atomic bomb waiting to blow on all of us. Because I need to understand. But I want Fulani tẹ́ ń bú yẹn. Wọn ò mọ̀wé, wọn ò gbóyìnbó, orí tí wọ́n pé when it comes to understanding power, understanding geopolitics, and understanding statecraft. Tẹ́ bá lọ wo northern Nigeria. In order to be able to bring tọ́lá àwọn Kanuri gbà yẹn náà, wọ́n wà pro Awólọ́wọ̀. Àwọn Kanuri, they were asking for their region. And they never wanted anything to do pẹ̀lú Northwest in ibi tí Caliphate wà. Bẹ̀ ṣé mo ti wí kíní ṣe? Ṣé many places lónìí tó ti ń sọ Hausa? Bí ní Nasarawa, bí ní Niger State, ní Taraba, even Plateau, tẹ́ pé Hausa ló wà di lingua franca ń sìn. The majority of those places in the north. As at the First Republic, many of these places, they were still speaking their indigenous mother tongue. It was the policies of Ahmadu Bello during that short period. The policies of Ahmadu Bello was one north. Kí ni ìtumọ̀ one north? One north here was based on Hausanization, Arewanization, and the creation of a monolithic north. And they achieved one serious, that was why they were using diplomacy, gunboat diplomacy. Ibi tó ẹ̀kan ti jà wọ́n jà tó ẹ̀kan ti pa àwọn èèyàn wọ́n pààyàn tó ti ṣe destruction wọ́n ṣe destruction bẹ́ẹ̀. Torí ẹ̀ ni wọ́n fi tètè rearrange north. Tẹ́ ẹ bá wo tí wọ́n ṣe ní corn north. This issue of ẹnìkan number 1, ẹnìkan number 2, wọn ò ṣe north. In tí wọ́n ṣe ní corn north was very simple. Wọ́n lọ create NSCIA. Wọ́n wo similarity tó wà láàrin the Kanuri, the Borno Empire, àti Sokoto Caliphate, which is Sunni Islam. Torí ẹni tẹ́ bá wo nǹkan, the corn north can tolerate anything. Wọn ò lè tolerate Shia Islam. Torí Shia Islam máa ba balance of power jẹ́. Àwọn dẹ̀ understanding tí wọ́n pè ní balance of power order. Kò dàbí ọ̀dọ̀ tí wá tẹ́ pé a ti rírú àwọn GRV tó ń sọ̀sọ́kùsọ kiri. When time I saw, Lagos is not no man's land, though. Lagos belongs to Lagosians. As if Lagosians is another ethnicity on its own. Now, mo fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ègùn tó ń bẹ ní mo ayin Yorùbá tó ayin àwọn ègùn. Ẹ ti dára wá wọ́n ti di Yorùbá, but I want to say this. The Egun people are not indigenous to Lagos State. They were given ilẹ̀ Àwórì níbi táwọn Egun settle sí yẹn. And it was during the time of the Oyo Empire ní Aláàfin ló settle àwọn Ègùn sí ibẹ̀ on Àwórì land. So they are also a product of the Oyo Empire. Can you understand how Oyo Empire shaped many places in Nigeria, in Yorubaland? Now, mo ń sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn Kanuri. Now, mo sọ̀rọ̀ Kanuri, how they were able to unite the Kanuri and the Fulanis and the Borno Empire and the Sokoto Caliphate into one block. One created an CIA. They now created 2 permanent positions. The first permanent position, today I want to understand the religion, we've got one think tanks. Kò sí think tank ilẹ̀ Yorùbá mọ́. Torí ẹ̀ lẹ́yìn kan fi believe pé tẹ́ bá ń ṣépè fún Ọ̀yọ́, tẹ́ ń ṣépè fún Aláàfin, tẹ́ ló ń kọ ewì olórí burúkú, tẹ́ ń kọ ewì òṣì, tẹ́ ń pàtọ́rí burúkú, tẹ́ ń bú àwọn Ọ̀yọ́. That is what is going to make peace happen in Yorubaland. You are wasting your time. You are pouring petrol on fire. Àtẹ̀yìn Ọ̀yọ́ náà, àtẹ̀yìn Ọ̀yọ́ kan náà tẹ́ mójú tẹ́ mọ́ra. Tẹ́ understand. Ipe ogun òun wóruru káwárúrú. Yeah, they understand. Ipe you cannot be claiming that Aláàfin lọ́ba aládé gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. We know it's not going to happen. Kò sí nǹkan báyìí. We are not going to accept that. Bẹ́ẹ̀ nìkan lórí ọba aládé ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. We are kóníkálukú àti confederacy ni. That is not going to be acceptable nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. I know some of you don't want to listen to this truth. Some people even unfollowed me. Wọ́n ní mo wà anti Ọ̀yọ́. But I'm not here to ponder to your ego. Because Ọ̀yọ́ is one of the groups that make up the Yoruba people. Loyalty tí mo sí ní lọ́yìn sí mọ́ Ọ̀yọ́ náà ni mo ní sí Ifẹ̀. Òun náà ni mo ní sí Òkun. Òun ni mo ní sí Ìṣẹ̀kírì. Òun ni mo ní sí àwọn Ifẹ̀ tó ń bẹ ní Àtàpàmè. Òun ni mo ní sáwọn Brimas tó ń bẹ ní Ghana. Òun ni mo ní sáwọn Ga tó wà ní Ghana. Òun ni mo ní sáwọn Aku tó ń bẹ ní Gambia àti ní Sierra Leone. Many of the Aku people and Oku people are descendants of Yorubas also from the Oyo Empire. So you have to understand how this spread happens. You have to understand why it is so important to understand the importance of this empire and these empires. Now, let's now go back into what is the current legacy of these empires across the Yoruba-speaking space. Ilorin still signifies the Oyo Empire. Ado Ekiti signifies the Bini Empire. Akure still talks about the relics of the Bini Empire. Bini Empire is a Yoruba empire. We are no book by him. I know a lot of this Bini. I'm not here to pander to your ego. Bini Empire was an Oromiyan empire. If you claim Oromiyan, who is one of the great fathers, ancestors of the Yoruba civilization, then you are part of us. The day you take Oromiyan away from your history is the day we are going to take many of you serious. Ibadan was also a creation, a creation, a product of the Oyo Empire. Lokoja was a creation of the early migration and expansion of the Ife Empire. Torí ẹ máa wo àwọn Abẹ́òkúta, ẹ̀yin ẹ̀gbá ẹ̀ ní bínú sí mi o. Tí Ọ̀yọ́ Empire ò bá fọ́, kò lè sí tó jẹ́ Abẹ́òkúta o. Ìgbà t'Ọ̀yọ́ Empire fọ́, táwọn Ọ̀yọ́ refugees tí wọ́n wá sẹ́bàá ọ̀dàn, tí battle between the Republicans and the monarchy ṣẹlẹ̀ níbẹ̀. Òun ló fà tágbé àwọn Ẹ̀gbá fi sún kúrò torí ibi tán pè ní Ìbàdàn lónìí. Àwọn Ìjẹ̀bú, Ẹ̀gbá àti Òwu ló ní majority ibẹ̀ o. It was torí ẹ̀ la fi sọ pé kò gbọdọ̀ sógun kó mọ̀ sọtẹ́ o. There will be dislocation and destruction of our people. So Abeokuta is also a product, a relic. It's one of the chain reactions of the Oyo Empire náà níbẹ̀ yẹn náà. Òṣogbo became prominent after 1840. Ìgbà yẹn ni Ìbàdàn lọ station army síbẹ̀ láti protect ibẹ̀. Òṣogbo is a relic of Ìbàdàn Empire. Lagos. Anyway, I know a lot of people. Port Novo is a relic of the Oyo Empire. Torí Lagos is the city state. Lagos state is now a city state. Even the capital itself does not matter anymore. Torí ẹni mi fi sọ̀rọ̀ Lagos. Accra, ibi táwọn indigenous homeland of the Ga, is a product of Ife Empire. Ẹ má wá gbàgbé o, everybody o, Ife ni oníkálukú ti mú civilization lọ o. The Oyibadan people, Ife Empire, Odùduwà ní foundation ẹ̀. Oyo Empire, Ọ̀rànmíyàn ní foundation ẹ̀. Bini Empire, Oyo Ọ̀rànmíyàn ní foundation ẹ̀. Ìbàdàn Empire, Ọ̀rànmíyàn ní foundation ẹ̀. Ibì kan wà tó ń pè ní Ọ̀rànyàn ní Ìbàdàn, very close to Kudeti. That is where they invoke the spirit of Ọ̀rànmíyàn when they want to go to war. The secret of power, the god of power of the Yoruba people of the Ibadan Empire was Ọ̀rànmíyàn. Àwọn nìkan náà wọ́n ní àṣírí yẹn lọ́wọ́ tí wọ́n sì fi invoke Ọ̀rànmíyàn tó bá fẹ́ lọ sógun. This is a bitter truth. The god of war of Ibadan was also Ọ̀rànmíyàn. And one of the secrets tí Ọ̀rànmíyàn saw is that anytime there is war, he must be called upon and is going to answer. But the one way or the other were able to crack that code of to be able to be calling upon the spirit of Ọ̀rànmíyàn to go to battle. But that is not what we are talking about. But I'm telling you that these are foundations. It is a foundation. So oníkálukú náà wá gbọ́dọ̀ mú ayé ẹ̀. Torí ẹ̀ ní Bini blah blah blah. Bini cannot be taken out of the Yoruba Commonwealth. Bó pẹ́ títí akóló ló pe bàbá, they themselves cannot stop prognosing to Yoruba issue. They can't. 1972 ni wọ́n bínú lọ ọ̀rọ̀ House of Chiefs. Ipe kan máa fẹ́ nìkan jẹ́ permanent chairman of the kìnnìkan pé empire ni wá náà rubbish fòlélẹ̀ àwọn olè gba nonsense. Tọ́yọ̀ gan mal opportunity ni Ọ̀yọ́ ti lọ create region ẹ̀ and get out of Western region. Òótọ́ ni mo sọ fún yín o. Torí mo rí táwọn kan láàrin wa. Àwọn kan àwọn iṣẹ́ Yorùbá kóòtù òjíire ní kìnnìkan ẹ̀dẹ̀ fẹ́ dalẹ̀ Yorùbá rú. Ìyí tó ṣẹlẹ̀ sí Roman Empire ẹ fẹ́ mú wá sílẹ̀ Yorùbá. Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ sí Roman Empire? Roman Empire was broken into two. Eastern Yorubaland, Western Yorubaland. Now, ẹ̀yin ti pín sí mẹ́ta tẹ́ ẹ mọ̀. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ti ń pín sọ́nà mẹ́ta tí ẹ mọ̀. A dẹ̀ ń pariwo fún yín ẹ̀gbọ́n ìtàn burúkú torí pé ní ọ̀fìn tẹ́ máa jẹ lórí social media lẹ́ ń wá. Because you are not knowledgeable in geopolitics. Mi ò fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ lórí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí for a long time, but I have to start speaking out. Torí many of you, you think you need to understand geopolitics. If you don't understand it, go and do a 6-month course and understand what geopolitics is. So that you can understand our future and how we are going to be able to do all these things. And how to be able to navigate difficult periods. How we are going to navigate difficult periods. So it is very, very important for us to understand where we are coming from and where we are going. And because of this reason, today the understanding the 1,000 years of geopolitics in Yorubaland. Today Yoruba see. Edo people, Edo states, Bini to Binupo, Lara yin ni won. àti ìrìyànjú sìn àwọn náà lo kíní yẹn náà fi já àwọn òsè àkókò Ẹdó àwọn ìṣẹ̀kírì náà kó wọn lọ. They are also part of us. Bini are part of us. I'm saying it here on life. Whether they want to go about their job, let us talk on civilization level. We use the same civilization. We use the same civilization. Ẹ lọ wò táwọn ọlọ́wọ̀. Ẹ wo pé ká máa dọ̀bálẹ̀ yẹn. Àwọn Ọ̀yọ́ ló mú wá. Sí axis tó is influence Sahara Savannah òun ló wọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Influence Savannah òun ló wọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Influence Savannah òun ló wọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ṣùgbọ́n tẹ́ bá lọ sí Ọ̀wọ̀ Palace, ẹ lọ sọ́dọ̀ àwọn ìkálẹ̀, ẹ máa rí bí wọ́n ṣe máa kúnlẹ̀ níwájú ọba, síwájú Akodi of Kálẹ̀, tí wọ́n máa wo tí wọ́n máa kúnlẹ̀, tí wọ́n máa kí ọba wọn Ọ̀wọ̀ Àkókò. Ẹ bá lọ wo àwọn Ùsẹ̀, ẹ lọ wo àwọn Bìní, ẹ lọ wo àwọn Ìṣẹ̀kírì, the same thing ni. Bí wọ́n ṣe ń ṣe ní Òtù Fẹ̀ ní ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀ nìyẹn. This later thing, ipa àwọn agbádá àwọn, those are Ọ̀yọ́ influence. Ṣé mo, culture is not static. So ẹ má pínlẹ̀ Yorùbá sọ́nà mẹ́ta. Torí Eastern Yorubaland kan ti pín sí méjì. Àwọn Èkìtì, Oǹdó, Ifẹ̀, Ìjẹ̀ṣà wọ́n wà pẹ̀lú Ọ̀ọ̀ni. Àwọn axis gbogbo èmi ni Ishan, gbogbo àwọn Edroid kìíní yẹn that were under with the Yorùbá Odùduwà civilization before. Wọ́n ti àwọn Benin ti kó wọn lọ. Àwọn Ùsẹ́, Àkókò àti Ìṣẹ̀kírì náà bínú sí wọn ní no. Làwọn wá ń bá wa ṣe ní West. Nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ní South West. Let me put it that way. Today mo fi sọ lecture yẹn for many months. Pé Yorùbá is a civilization state, not a tribe. You cannot be thinking like other ethnicities within Nigeria. You can only think, the only people you should be thinking like are the Fulanis and the Kanuris, because àwọn yẹn civilization ni wọ́n ń rò. Àwọn Òwò tribe. Because you are sitting on the shoulders of giants, you are sitting on the shoulders of empires. Torí ẹ̀ ní Ọ̀yọ́ State, old Oyo State, was a crime against humanity. How do you put 3 Yoruba empires in a state? Ẹ wá ní kí still peace wà ńbẹ̀. Ẹ f'Aláàfin síbẹ̀. Ẹ fi Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ síbẹ̀. Ẹ f'Olúbàdàn síbẹ̀. Àwọn Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ gan náà táwọn náà fẹ́ máa ṣe imperial majesty ẹ kó síbẹ̀. Bó lẹ ṣe fẹ́ ní peace? Ẹ lè ní peace. And ìyà rádàrádà tó bálẹ̀ Yorùbá yẹn was because of the suffering. Because a lot of Yoruba people were in opposition for a long time. So, bí mo ṣe sọ, the successor state, nígbà tí Western region 4, which was also a continuation of the empire state or civilization of the Yoruba people within Nigeria. What happened? Ani Lagos, Ani Ogun, Ani Osun, Ani Oyo, Ani Kwara. But which one is the greatest? Talo succeed. Which city-state succeeded Western region today? Lagos. Lagos State. Only successor state, see. Ṣé ẹ dẹ̀ rí pé wọn ò jẹ́ kí successor state yín ṣe jẹ́ kó gbádùn? Even you saw my ethnic minorities are also scheming on how they will take over and destroy that jewel of the Yoruba race. So you have to understand. So nísìn, àwọn rhetoric kan wà tẹ́ pé a gbọ́dọ̀ sọ̀sọ́kúsọ ẹ mọ́lẹ̀ Yorùbá mọ́. The head of all Obas nílẹ̀ Yorùbá, I need gbogbo yẹn. I'm saying it on here. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń wá regional system of government. Ẹ̀yin lẹ̀ ń wá regional system of government. Ẹ̀yin náà ládẹ̀ bá nídìí ìsọkúsọ. Ẹ̀yin lẹ̀ ń bú Ọ̀yọ́, ẹ̀yin lẹ̀ ń bú Èkìtì, ẹ̀yin lẹ̀ ń bú Ìbàdàn. ẹ̀yin lẹ ń ṣe clannishness, ẹ̀yin lẹ ń ṣe Ẹ̀gbá supremacist, Èkìtì supremacist. ṣé understanding to destroy first republic ni? That's why I say not everybody is mentally fit to engage in Yoruba history and geopolitics. Not everybody is qualified to talk about it. Ọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá ju 1 + 1 is equal to 2 lọ. China nìkan ni mo ráyè compare Yorubaland sí. Gbogbo ọ̀rọ̀ rádàrádà ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ ẹ̀yin ṣe Yorùbá. Ẹ fẹ́ pínlẹ̀ Yorùbá nìyẹn. Ẹ fẹ́ pín kò dẹ̀ ní pé yín. Ìyẹn táwọn kan fi ògún ojú ṣàjọ, Awólọ́wọ̀ fi gbogbo ayé ẹ̀ ṣàjọ. Bí Aláàfin àtàwólọ́wọ̀ ṣe pò, Aláàfin Awólọ́wọ̀ sọ̀sọ́kùsọ ìbáyìí, wọ́n pín kò bú àwọn Ọ̀yọ́ rí. Kò sọ́rí. Even Akintola never said any terrible things against Ekiti or the Oyo. They respected that brotherhood even when they were fighting. But I'm sorry to say this, ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́. Social media ti fún ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ tí ó yẹ kó sọ̀rọ̀. Ó ti fún ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ní access to be saying nonsense and to destroy Yorubaland. Ogun tẹ́ fẹ́ dá sílẹ̀ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ yín tẹ́ máa jẹlẹ̀ ń wá gọ́sẹ̀ mọ implication tẹ́ ń ṣe. If you value Yorubaland, you know 1,000 years of Yoruba history, you will dare not insult any empire in the Yoruba. That's why I don't insult the Benis. With politics in it. I studied European history. I know how petty it was. That's the reason why the Germany and Austria, Shamorisiti, Otto von Bismarck, told you if you get Austria could join German Empire. Prussia was an empire. Austria was an empire. And both of them were German states. They were both Christians. They were all Germanic people. They speak the same language with different dialects. Otto von Bismarck, if you need Austria or Wabi, do you know why? Reason yẹn náà lẹ́yìn náà tí múra lẹ́tí bẹ̀rẹ̀ láàrin ara yín. Lẹ́tí bẹ̀rẹ̀. Ẹ̀yin blogger. When you are possible, or your people are very treacherous. Emma Sosita. Most of them canton, Mama Purawani, custodian fighting for Yoruba people. Or you're a British. Emma so eton. How do you expect in 24th century that you are inciting some Yoruba bloc against another Yoruba bloc? Same thing, but then Oyo, Ife, Abore. You are inciting one block against one block. And then who are Kai, and you Kai, and you another day. And to our bossita, Lola. To sort of Yoruba unity. Because this is what I've been is a mental problem. Hello, Cousin Bio, they are on the Facebook need to talk. The protection of Yoruba history and identity. But in them I want Fulani here, they are Fulani blood, they are Bariba blood. You understand the history. Understand the time in frontier basis. I want Germans to one in Austria, one in Slavic blood. Because I want to expand the Germanic tribe. One Germanize a lot of Slavic people. There was a policy during the Austrian Empire called the Germanization or Germanification agenda, where millions of Slavs were turned into Germans. That is ethnocide, expansionism, imperialism. That is all great. What great pious do? Elo kanipa crucifixion agenda. Tobayansi. Táwọn Gorimagongo, tọ́lọ́n bàbá wa ṣètò Gorimagongo, local governments, Bua, Àkókò Gbàngìrì, original Àkókò ni wọ́n. Tá a bá dá wọn padà sínú Southwest nsìn, ẹ̀yin kan náà tún bẹ̀rẹ̀ sọkúsọ, ẹ̀jẹ̀ ìbìrà ni wọ́n lẹ́jẹ̀ ìbìrà nú, ẹ má bẹ̀rẹ̀ sọkúsọ ni. Ntí àwọn kan fi ẹ̀jẹ̀ wọn ṣe, tí wọ́n fi ẹ̀jẹ̀ wọn gbẹ̀rà, tí wọ́n fi ògùn ojú wọn gbà, ẹ̀yin kan fi torí pé ẹ mọ ọ̀rọ̀ sọ ẹ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́. That is Austria and Germany are not in the same country because they could not manage their differences. Two major differences. Austria was Catholic, Germany was Protestant. Austria was ruled by the crown prince, by the House of Augsburg, while Germany was ruled by the House of Brandenburg. Ọọ̀ni of Ife, Pastor Salafin, these two houses. Today, mo fi sọ fún yín pé you are qualified for Yoruba nation. You are not qualified for Yoruba nation. Ẹ máa lọ para yín ní Yoruba nation tẹ́ fẹ́ gbà yẹn and opportunity láti lọ bẹ̀rẹ̀ civil war ní. If you cannot fix your shit, sorry, I'm on here in Nigeria, then forget about this Yoruba nation. You are not qualified to get it because you don't understand geopolitics. You don't understand. Understand the between Duro. Understand the political might. You have to see spiritual power. Understand the pé ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ó yàtọ̀ síra wọn. Wọ́n ti ní kí n dánu dúró. Mo rò bí mo gbìyànjú díẹ̀. Dẹ̀ pàtẹ́wọ́ fún mi ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi. A pàdé lọ́sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ o. Ẹ jẹ́ kí a ṣe question and answer. Ẹ jẹ́ ń lọ ọmọ mi díẹ̀ o. Ẹ ṣé o níbi tẹ́ ti ń gbọ́ mi káàkiri ayé o. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́ o. Ilẹ̀ Oòduà kò ní bàjẹ́ o. Mo kí Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ o. Ẹ pẹ́ lórí àpèrè bàbá yín o. Mo kí Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. Mo kí Àwùjalẹ̀ of Ìjẹ̀bú. Àbá Àwùjalẹ̀ ti wàjà. Mo kí Àwùjalẹ̀, mo kí Ìwé-Adó, mo kí Ọba of Bini, mo kí Ọwá Ọ̀bọ̀kún of Ìjẹ̀ṣàland, mo kí Olúbàdàn sílẹ̀ Ìbàdàn, mo kí Ṣọ̀ún of Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́, mo kí Ọba Ìlọrin, mo kí Sùlù Gàmbàrí, mo kí Ọba Jẹ́bà, mo kí Ọ̀họ̀rọ̀ tilẹ̀ Ṣàwó, mo dẹ̀ tún kí Kaba, Ọba of Kaba, mo kí Ọba Ayọ̀ Ìṣímèṣe ti ilẹ̀ Olùkùmí ní Delta North, and I greet the great Olú of Warri, Afomasin. I greet the Ọba of Lagos, Ileko of Ilẹ̀ Èkó, Àyàngbúrẹ́ of Ìkòròdú, mo kí Ọba Aláké tilẹ̀ Ẹ̀gbá, mo kí Ọba Brima of Ghana, mo kí Alákétu tilẹ̀ Kétu, mo kí Onísàbẹ̀ of Sábẹ́, gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá pátá Ọ̀kẹ́rẹ́ tìlú Ṣákí, mo kí Olúwo of Ìwó, bàbá wa gbogbo wọn o. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́ o. Ẹ jẹ́ kí ká wá ikú wa àjọkú, àwẹ̀ wa àjọgbà. Ẹ ṣé o. Mi ò gbọ́ yín nínú ìyàrá agbára. Orí fóònù mo ti ń gbọ́ yín.
Ojolomi, are you there?
You need to open. You need to open your yes, yeah. Hey. Yes.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm just getting my hand around Zoom. It's been a while. So as I was saying, I thank you so much for all you have said, for all you have put out there, and for the truth you have spoken, for the wisdom and the enlightenment, education that you have given us tonight. Um, may the history that we have heard today be something that will strengthen us, not divide us. Because a lot of things has been said today, and people without understanding will think it's something they can run an agenda on. No, it's not for agenda. It is for unification. It is to establish our uniqueness as a people, the diversity in us, and the unity that we share in that same diversity. That is the essence of this lecture tonight. As I was saying, we will not be able to take phone calls because there's been an issue with one of our appliances here, but we will take questions from all of our devices. If you're on YouTube, if you're on the pack handle, I'm sorry, and you have a question, write the question, we'll read it out. But if you're on the space here, you'll be able to speak and you have anything to contribute, you can contribute and you will be heard over every channel. I hope you'll get over every channel. So I will hand over the mic to Madam Ajoke, who is the moderator of this space, and she takes over from here. Shawabema, Madam Ajoke. Hello, ma. I do not think she's there. I don't think she is there. Okay, so I will continue for now till she comes. And we have Daniel Olumade who wants to speak or ask a question. You have just 2 minutes, Daniel. 2 minutes, not a second extra, please. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. And I greet Mr. Jolomi for a job well done. And of course, I greet Are. May your wisdom not diminish, sir. You have highlighted a lot of important stuff about the Yoruba race and a lot of things that we can pick from your lecture. So I just want to say something. It will come as a form of question at the end, but then I like to expatiate my question before asking. I actually watched the film of Troy recently because there is a remake of it. There is a 2005 version. That's a popular one that Brad Pitt starred in. Then there is a remake that was made in 2018. So that one had episodes and it was quite elaborate. It explained what transpired, in the story written by Homer, the Iliad. Okay, now in the story, one of the princes, that's Paris, who had left the royal house. I think his father abandoned him. So he grew up as a commoner. And then somehow he was found. And then a short while after he was found, I think he was around 20 years old when he was found. So he had already matured. So a short while after he was found, he was sent on a diplomatic mission, okay, to one of the kings of Greece. And it was on that diplomatic mission that he seduced the wife of the king of Greece. And after the seduction, one thing led to another. The war broke out, and of course, one of the greatest wars in history, and that was what obliterated the city of Troy till today. That, according to that story. But my takeaway from the story is that the guy did not realize how sensitive his position as a prince was. He thought maybe he was just a commoner. Like he could fall in love with just any girl. His emotions could control him and he could just go and do as he pleased. But he was a prince. And the destinies of princes and kings are attached to their cities or the domains that they govern. Okay? So I think that was what caused the whole stuff. So how does this relate with what you have expatiated, Ari. I think there is a need for us to strengthen our traditional institutions in such a way that only because of an average Yoruba person does not know about statecraft, which is very, very true. But then, if an average Yoruba person does not know about statecraft, should the princes and the kings not know? There should be a form of way that way we can orient, all these royal houses. I'm very sorry to say, I'm someone who is very respectful, and I respect all kings, and I've never been part of all these royal tussles, and I will never be part of them. Okay, but then I think for us to have a lasting solution, maybe there should be a system where princes are given orientation, because I've seen in some European histories, in some European empires, you see the heir apparent or probably the princes around, they'll be trained in so many things: warfare, statecraft, philosophy, languages. I mean, look at the amount of training this guy received from Aristotle, Alexander the Great. So it was almost impossible to fail in his conquest.
You've used 5 minutes, Daniel.
So a blunder like this, Alafin having a tussle with the Oni, it shouldn't, so that we can put an end to it, permanently. We won't hear of it again in Yorubaland, and there will be order in the hierarchy of our royal men. So thank you very much.
All right, did you get this question, sir?
So the question he asked was very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Can people hear me? Can people hear me, please? Okay. The question he asked was very interesting. And I love the way you tried as much as possible to talk about Troy. It is true that, let me tell you what happened. Something you have to observe. Most of the emirs in the north, the emirs, the sultans, the sarkins in the core north, most of them went to the military. They were former colonels, generals. Many of them were former police superintendents. They were former military or paramilitary people in the core north. In fact, it was Ahmadu Bello that started that officially, even though it started before him, that all the princes of the Fulani Emirates in the core north must, as a matter of policy, go to the military. And that used to be the culture in pre-colonial Yorubaland. The princes, they were taught in warfare, classics, history, strategy, geopolitics. But what happened to the Yoruba people? Due to British colonialism, British, engineering, social engineering, we didn't even have enough people in the military. So it was, if we cannot create, so the Cornwall did not need to create a royal school. What they needed was to ensure that their people, these blue bloods, were in the Nigerian military. So when you see them talking about going to Sandust, all these great institutions in Britain, across the world, they are going there to learn strategy, statecraft, history, geopolitics. Compared to our own people, we just bring somebody that has spent 30 years in London, in America, in Canada, in Germany, or somebody that has governor, senator, even though kò tí ì kan láti jẹ governor or president, láti jẹ ọba, connection. You can't give what you don't have. That's why you saw that a lot of our obas are not aware. But we call on Jimmy because it's not good to, it's a taboo. Oba Unjebi. It is part of our advocacy that this knowledge of geopolitics, and one way or the other, our civilization that is breaking down will be remodeled. I also want to, somebody sent something to me about a particular Andu, because someone like from Ilorin, Kola Jikobi, that was mocking that in a particular place, that is where the head of Alaafin Oluewu was buried. You know, this is the most funniest thing. Even Uthmandan Fodio, you know, one of the sons of Uthmandan Fodio, many of the sons of Uthmandan Fodio perished in battles across the North Central, across the Northwest. To die in battle, for the Alaafin to die in battle, because somebody sent it to me, that's why I'm saying this on here. If you see any Oba that dies in battle, that is a worthy Oba. You see a great Yoruba leader in pre-colonial times. That's why you have to see that the Ari Ona Kakanfos have always been perishing in battles. That was why after Are Latosa, nobody wanted to take up that title anymore. That even in Nigeria, when they gave Akintola died in war. Within the context of Nigeria, MK Abiola died in war within the context of Nigeria. Because the Yoruba race is a martial race. You are not a race of cowards. So if anybody comes to Twitter and say, oh, this is where the king, the Alaafin Oluewu perished in war, it's common sense. Balogun Ajikobi, one of the Baloguns, look, Ilorin is a confederal city-state. Ilorin was also built on confederacy. Ibadan was also, most Yoruba cities are built on confederacy. Ilorin was built on confederacy. Ibadan was built on confederacies. That's why you have Balogun Ajikobi, Balogun Ananamu, Balogun Nakoju, Balogun Gambari, Balogun Fulani. That's why you have this Balogun. And Balogun Ajikobi was also beheaded in the shrine of Ogun. I'm coming, please. Was beheaded in the shrine of Ogun. That was where he was beheaded. So this issue, empire rises, empire falls. And we thank Almighty God, because I have to say this on here, because Coca-Cola Rafa Aditi. We start saying things the way it is. To my people in Shao, Mokinyi, Tologun. So our people in Jeba, thank you for holding strong. Ilorin is a dot in the circle. We have no problem. Ilorin is part of Yorubaland. Ilorin is part of it. Will be eternally part of Yorubaland. Because you are surrounded by the remnants of your empire that refuse to bow. They did not bow before Nigeria, and they didn't bow in Nigeria. So if any Alaafin dies in battle, because Oro come out Filoni come out for Afonja, and Ari Ona Kakanfo dying in battle is a thing of prestige. That is what they signed up for. If the Oba of Bini falls in battle, that is what he signed up for. Maybe because many of us don't know what is. If the Oluba that dies in battle, into signed for Niye, we can mourn like human beings. But I want my daughter Kuyoni. I want my boss Sasa Ogumasa. I thought ya Ogumaya ni. So this issue of any Kankusogun and one Geri Ogunsogun, it's normal. They died as martyrs of the empire. Because the Yoruba civilization was forged. Motiso, Yoruba civilization is not Oyo and Bini. Stop promoting Oyo and Bini as the epicenter of Yoruba culture and identity. It is wrong. Torí ẹni tẹ́ bá wo àwọn Arabs, àwọn Fulani, ẹ máa rí sword. Òun ni wọ́n fi ṣe ìsígnà wọn. Bó ṣe rí ẹ lọ àwọn Edo, àwọn Benin, ọ̀nà mìíràn. Kíní sword ọ̀bẹ àdá àti ọ̀bẹ òun ni wọ́n fi ṣe ìsígnà yẹn. Ẹ lọ àwọn Ọ̀yọ́, Ṣàngó ní war. And that should be for all over Yorubaland. We are a martial race. Ẹ jẹ́ ká yọ Oyo and Bini, fashion parade. That's not it. So if tẹ́ bá wà ní Ìlọrin West, tẹ́ wà ní mo respect everybody. Àwọn tó wà ní Ìlọrin West, tí wọ́n believe pé kíní kan Aláàfin Olúewu. There's nothing wrong. Ẹ̀gbá also seceded from the Oyo Empire. That we seceded from the Oyo Empire. That does not mean that we still don't have the same Commonwealth. We are still the same people. And you wanted to become, I'm saying this to the Ilorin irredentists. Because Ilorin is a Yoruba city state. This is, I'm coming for 2 minutes, 1 minute, Ejo. It's a Yoruba city state. You are a dot in the circle. And you are surrounded entirely by Yoruba cities. And the Yoruba people will not bow. We would not crawl. We would not be crushed. Not even in this century. When God has raised people like us. I'm saying this. So when people mock, especially you Yoruba youths, when people say, oh, they cut the head of Aláàfin, you should be happy. Ṣé Lord was Spartacus ni? Ṣé Lord was Troy ni? Go and look at the Game of Thrones. How their kings perished in battle. It is honor. It is martyrdom. That is how your civilization was forged and built. It was not by dancing and shaking your waists. It was through these sacrifices. That is why some of us have taken this mantle. Despite all our different careers, our careers in our lives, to continue to speak for the Yoruba race in any capacity we find ourselves. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀.
Ẹ ṣé gan, Ààrẹ. Ẹ ṣé gan. That was quite elaborate. In summary, what it let us know is this. Our kings are infallible. We can't question their actions, nor their inactions. But we as a people, we have the task to also be the reflection of who we want our kings to be. We have to be the warriors we want our kings to be also. So we cannot just say, put all the bulk on their table. We have to be that people who have to safeguard whatever it is that is surrounding the throne that we are looking up to. That means the leaders who appoint outside the palace in political sphere, it is our own job to scrutinize them and make sure that things are in place where we know our kings are protected, our land is protected, therefore our kings will be protected. And that's the key. Thank you very much, Are. Anybody else want to say something? Baby, I can't seem to bring you up. I'm terribly sorry. I can't seem to bring you up. I've tried, but you're not coming up. Anybody has anything to say? Omo Yoruba, you have anything to say? You're up. Well, nobody is saying Jagaban. The Jagaban.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
I want to.
Is that Omo Yoruba?
Comment. Yes, that's me.
You have 2 minutes, please.
I want to comment.
2 minutes, please.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Moki, Are, Moleki, everybody. Continuum. I just have a question, and the question is actually, I don't know how can we like unite Yoruba people, especially in controlling the way, especially Ilorin, because I don't know, can we unite Yoruba by because the last time I saw that there are some delegates of Think Yoruba Force that went to I think Oyo or Ibadan, for something. Then I'm thinking, can we to Ilorin, the palace and the people who are the rulers of Ilorin, traditional rulers. Then there's something that I want to talk about, especially in the religious aspect of how Ilorin is and what they are actually claiming, and they actually sideline people that are traditionalists in that city.
Omo Yoruba, your time is up, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just want to know. Okay, I just want to know.
Okay, let me quickly explain. Let me quickly explain. Thank you very much. Let me quickly explain something about Ilorin for you. You see, Ilorin is an illusion. What you see in Ilorin is the Ilorin is the fault of the entire Yoruba race. Ilorin is not a problem at all, and I'm going to say it here. In fact, when you talk about, I read the book, the honorable one of my godfathers gave me an autobiography of Amadou Bello about Ilorin. And when he gave me this book about the Fulani Empire and everything, Amadou Bello himself said it, that Ilorin is Yorubaland in his book. Anytime some of us bring out the Gazette of Ilorin, we bring out this kind of book, these guys, they run away. I've spoken to many Fulani princes. They said Ilorin is Yorubaland. When Lord Lugard and his Royal Niger forces, constabulary forces, they were marching into the Corn North to go and destroy and annex the Sokoto Caliphate. Ilorin, the Sultan of Sokoto wrote to Ilorin that Ilorin should help them as brothers in Islam, part of the Ummah, to stop Ilorin, to stop the army from coming. Ilorin just said, no, and Ilorin was part and parcel of the Yoruba civil wars. What has happened is social engineering. The social engineering that has made some Ishekiris not to realize that they are Yorubas. When some Ishekiris realize that they are Yoruba true and true, many of them, I know some people that ran away from Twitter because they were socially engineered to be joining the Alliance of Eight against their Yoruba. They don't know. They don't know. Many people were already 70 years before they knew they were pure Ijebu blood. They didn't know. So the issue of Ilorin is social engineering of a particular cabal in Ilorin West. Torí tí ọmọ ti sọ pé àwọn ò ní jẹ́ ká sùn, àwa náà ò ní jẹ́ kán sùn, á dẹ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní sọ̀rọ̀ síta ń sìn. This is my face. I'm the president of TYF. On the role we are playing, I cannot say some things publicly. Not everything can be said. Ṣùgbọ́n I can tell you that the Ilorin issue is a political issue. And the Ilorin issue is part of the Oyo problem. Sheriff category cannot. I want to beg you, people from Eastern Yorubaland, ẹ jẹ́ ká fi ọgbọ́n, ẹ jẹ́ ká fi tó ọ̀rọ̀ tó wà nílẹ̀ yìí. ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ̀dẹ̀ wá látògbómọ̀ṣọ́ tẹ́ wá láti Ìbàdàn, Ìjàyè, Ẹ̀gbá. Ẹ jẹ́ ká fi ọgbọ́n tó ọ̀rọ̀ yìí o. So that omi ò ní gbẹ̀yìn. We are not going to regret what is already on ground. The days of kingdoms is already over. The days of kingdoms, come and create many kingdoms. This is the day of period of Pax Yorubana. Ilorin people, àwọn Ilorin, the core Ilorin people see themselves as part and parcel of Yoruba people. One of the best Fuji musicians is from Ilorin, Kollington Ayinla. It's only second best to Barrister. So kí la wá ń sọ? Culturally, the issue of religion, ṣé nínú Southwest, ṣé wọn ò máa discriminate against the traditional worshippers? Ẹ jẹ́ ká bá a sọ tọrọ. Ọ̀ṣun, Ọ̀yọ́, Ògùn, Èkó, it's more than 2-3 years now. Ọdún kẹta rèé, August 20 náà fún traditional worshippers ní public holiday wọn. Ṣé Ògùn àti Èkìtì ṣe join? Ṣé mo reason tí wọn ò fi join? I'm not going to say some things on here because of àwọn fanatics tó wà láàrin wa now. Because many people think about this sort of fanatics, Islam, there are Christian fanatics too. Christian fanatics. We have Muslim. In fact, there are Isheshe fanatics too. There are Buddhist fanatics. There are Hindu. There are always fanatics when it comes to religion. Extremists. But in as much as we want to be critical, we've done, when it comes to managing religion, Yoruba people is 7/10. Nínú Ìlọrin tẹ̀dẹ̀ ń wò yẹn náà, even though some people tried as much as possible láti stop Christianity, in fact, Christianity in Ìlọrin is so huge. Compare to some places gone in Southwest. But as in Ṣọdún Ṣẹ̀ṣe, Ṣàwó, that is just a stone throw. Zobi Baraki ló pín Ṣàwó àti Ìlọrin. Nínú Emirates wọn dábẹ́ claim pé Ṣàwó is Ìlọrin, mo ti sọ fún wọn, and claim pé Ṣàwó is Ìlọrin, tán bá bí i dá, cross into Ṣàwó. It's because of they want to create they want to create this illusion. It's illusion. Political Islam they're in display. Lọ́rọ̀ Ìlọrin is political Islam, where a minority want to continue to use religious puritanism as láti gbé sókè, láti on top. Geopolitics ni wọ́n play ní Ìlọrin, advanced geopolitics ni. Nígbà tí àwọn tó dìde tí Balógun náà kojú dìde àtàwọn Yorùbá tí wọ́n lé ẹ̀mí àkúrò ní Ìlọrin, ibo ló sá wá? Ṣebí sọ àwọn Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ ló tulẹ̀ fún. Tán create settlement tán pè ní Onígàmbàrí ní Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ dòní. When he ran away from Ìlọrin, he came to Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ to come and to ask for refugee. They saw themselves as brothers and sisters. It's the bitter truth. Gbogbo àwọn tẹ́ ń wo bí tẹ́ ń pè ní Gàmbàrí yẹn were all part and parcel of the Oyo Empire. They have Yoruba blood. They are all Yorubas. All of them, they are all Yorubas. They are all Oyo speaking. Dialectically, linguistically, historically, they are all Oyos. So the mindset ni pé táwọn bá ọ̀rọ̀ Aláàfin Olúewu yẹn, àwọn kan fẹ́ gbẹ̀san kìnìkan, ọ̀nà fi lọ́n seek geopolitical alliance. Pẹ̀lú Connaught. Ẹ̀yin ó ṣe fún mi ní 2 minutes ẹ jọ̀ọ́ láti dáhùn question. Ṣé rí ọ̀rọ̀ successor states? Kẹ́mpáyà kan fọ́, tẹ́mpáyà bá fọ́, káwá ní strong city state bíi mẹ́rin márùn-ún, kán mọ jà sí power. Òun ló ṣẹlẹ̀, òun ló fa issue Russia-Ukraine yìí. When the USSR fell, the most biggest and the most powerful out of the successor states, ṣàgbébẹ̀ ní Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, gbogbo àwọn states yẹn tó ti jábọ́, tó ti fọ́. But the two most powerful was Russia and Ukraine. Russia had a lot, Ukraine had a lot of nuclear weapons. Russia had a lot of, but Russia was the one that quickly said, we we are the successor to USSR. In Putin in Soniel, in West Sophonier, you are not the successor of USSR. Where Ukraine la fẹ́ fi ṣe successor for USSR. So ogun Ukraine Russia on the geopolitical level, it is a battle for survival. Ogun Ìlọrin, what dàbí ogun Ìbàdàn àti Ìlọrin ni. Many of the ogun Ìbàdàn àti Ìlọrin in the geopolitical sense. I'm from Ibadan warlord family. It was a battle for who was going to replace Oyo as the imperial authority in the Yoruba-speaking world through war. War nothing settled. Eastern Yorubaland need diplomacy and the EBI system of TFLO, which was more peaceful. It's the bitter truth. The western side is very aggressive because of the neighbors. You cannot have Fulani neighbors, Hausa neighbors, Nupe neighbors, Bariba neighbors. These are you cannot have those kind of neighbors, Songe, and not be radical. You cannot. Bini only on fi neutralize the threats across the Niger Basin, not ja ogun buruku beyen. Today, and even the Igbo speaking groups, ni gbogbo Delta and Konkonye, Bini princes, àwọn ọmọ Ọ̀rànmíyàn ni wọ́n fi jẹ ọba níbẹ̀, which are still from Ife. So you have to understand where we are coming from and where we are going. So the issue of Ilorin is not a problem. If the two local governments, Lesotho, in the Yoruba region, we have no problem. They can be. But the Shao, those are Yorubaland. They are still there. It's just political. Political power. That there must be political organization. What can I say political organization? And if there is political organization, you must understand geopolitics. Don't give the political power of Yorubaland to the worst of us. To understand geopolitics. They are petty, they are clannish. Don't give them, don't. They must never have power to geopolitics. They must never have power in Yorubaland. When the issue of Ishekiri told Diojue 2 years ago, see our sáré kiri. Tan sáré kiri lórí ọ̀rọ̀ Shekiri. Tan sáré kiri lórí ọ̀rọ̀ Shekiri. We reached out to some elders. Wọ́n ní kí ló kà wọ́n pẹ̀lú ọ̀rọ̀ Shekiri. They are not concerned. Arise TV, wọ́n á watch it. Kíni kan Yoruba International World Affairs. They are not representing anything. Tẹ́bárí wọn tán jà fún Jẹ̀bú State, Ìbàdàn State, Kini State. In turn believe ní pé state yẹn ọmọ tiwọn àwọn náà lè jẹ senator, ọmọ tiwọn náà lè jẹ governor. That's what they are fighting for. The Yoruba social currency, the political currency of the Yoruba people is just a ladder. They cannot go to war for it. They can't. If you look at the situation of things in Yorubaland, it's like the 19th century, the period of warlords, the period of stubborn, àwọn alágídí kan kúnta, wọ́n kàn sọ̀rọ̀ jàù sáwọn ọba, wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ anyhow, wọ́n parọ́ mọ́ra wọn, wọ́n destroy. Is a religious fundamental, he's an Islamic fundamentalist. One can someone that you've not even spoken to in 6 years will just come and be saying all sorts of things. Because it is the state, we are back in the period of chaos. And that's one of the reasons why we have TYF. And that's why TYF will always be TYF. Because the ideology, the structure, what it is doing, that's what it is meant to do. The pains, the sacrifices, the tears, the koboko, many of you will run away. The discipline to set this space up, to have this capacity to be able to do what we are doing today. We know many people that have not slept. So the issue of learning is not different from what we have in the case of Adamawa, where Governor Fintiri, indigenous obas, they raise them up. So it's going to happen. Mohamed Lawal started it. Another governor will do it. In Moro local government, in Asa local government. And even amongst the Balogun, àwọn Balogun lọ́rin náà yẹ kán uplift one now. They are qualified to be obas. Àwọn ẹgbẹ́ wọn ti dọba níbàdàn now. So clearly táwọn náà ti di ọba couple one is Royal Majesty. They will surely do it for them too. Lágbára Ọlọ́run. So I'm saying it lágbára Ọlọ́run. Kò dẹ̀ sí nǹkan kan tí wọ́n fi ṣe wá. Àṣàsí ò dẹ̀ ní mú wa. Torí ẹ̀ mo fi pariwo pé wọ́n ti ń ṣàṣì wa ìran Yorùbá. Àṣàsí ti wa. Ṣé rí kan kọjú Yorùbá síra wọn jù is the greatest tool that they've been using to keep up where we are. Torí ẹ̀ ní if you are a Yoruba man. Torí ẹ̀ ní táwọn èèyàn bá ń bú mi tán sọ̀sọ̀kúsọ. Some people feel, why tell I respond? I cannot respond because me understand the interview destroy Aláàfin Olúewu. Aláàfin Olúewu. Àwọn Yorùbá generals ní wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sọ Tálàfin máa win ní ogun yìí Amadi and kíní padà Oyo Empire and they started sabotaging themselves. Àwọn tó sabotage dancing kí náà benefit. Everybody share ẹrú. Àtẹni tó jàre o, àtẹni tó jẹ̀bi o. Torí ẹ̀ ní tá a bá fẹ́ pa ègún rẹ́, we must study history. We must study history. We must study history geopolitically. Don't study history to seek vengeance. Pé ìtàn ṣe fún àwa Èkìtì, Ìbàdàn ṣe fún àwa Èkìtì, a máa revenge ni. Don't do that. Ntí Ọ̀yẹ́ Ẹ̀gbá ṣe, ìtàwọn Ìlọrin ṣe fún Aláàfin, a máa revenge ni. You cannot do that. Ogun la pé. So we talk about geopolitics. More than hundreds of thousands. Làwọn Kanuri àti Fulani tán para wọn. Every point they keep history yẹn. Or keep us on that table. Àrẹwà, one not, irọ́ ni. Yorùbá ò para wọn tó bá wọn Fulani àti Kanuri ṣe para wọn. Ní ìsìn one not náà claim. Ìran tí ò ṣe nǹkan kan náà. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wá jẹ́rẹ̀ kan náà. Ṣé is the first time tẹ́ máa. So if you remember láti Ìlọrin any problem, ogun ṣẹlẹ̀ ni, empire fọ́ ni. And I'm not a fan of an empire. I'm not a fan of an empire. I'm a fan of a republic. Even Nigeria is a republic. I'm a Republican. So ẹ jẹ́ ká move on. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. Ṣé mo gbìyànjú àti dáhùn question yín? Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ dá wa lóhùn host o. Jolomi, Mr. Jolomi.
Yes, thank you very much, Are. Mr. Omo Yoruba. What Are has said in essence is consciousness and our need as a people for unity. The only way we can bring Yoruba people together is to create Yoruba consciousness. What about the share? Every that will fall into place. How they force it just to create the consciousness that need the Shadibo. Ààrẹ ṣé mo purọ́, ṣé mo sọ̀rọ̀ síbi tó dáa? All right, it's not there. So Mommy Dabiri is up. Mommy Dabiri, you have the mic. 2 minutes, ma. Ẹ kálẹ́ ma.
Ẹ kálẹ́.
Yes, ma.
Mo kí ààrẹ o, wọ́n kú iṣẹ́ o, wọ́n kú ohun o. Ó dàbà ṣe ń gbọ́ kínní every Saturday. At least ìyàwó tá a mọ history wa, a lè mọ history wa. Lórí àwọn ibi tá a ti ń bọ̀ àbí ibi tá a ń lọ. The only thing tí mo fẹ́ complain, even though ọmọ Èkó lọ́kọ mi o, but wọ́n bá ti make example ẹ̀ máa dárúkọ Èkìtì ẹ̀ ní pé Ondo. Ondo ọmọ Oòduà náà ni wá o.
Ẹ má bínú, mọ́mì ẹ jẹ́ kí
Ondo example. Torí mo mọ̀ pé ìyá bàbá mi Ògùn ló lé wọn kúrò lÉkìtì wá sóńdó tán fi di ọmọ ilẹ̀ great grandmother mi. Bí wọn lónìí Ìṣẹ́ Èkìtì náà ti wá. Ọ̀dọ̀ Ondo dẹ̀ ni bàbá mi gan kọlà Ondo méjì sójú. So ara àwọn ogun Kírìjì nǹkan tàbí Èkìtì parapọ̀ yẹn òun ló gbé wọn dóńdó táwọn. So ẹ bá ti ń sọ ẹ máa bá àwa náà akíkanjú wà lóńdó. Àwa tí ẹ dẹ̀ believe pé tó rà ní moat we have a moat ni wọ́n ti wá fill up tó jẹ́ pé ogun tó bá ń bọ̀ nínú kòtò moat yẹn náà máa já sí. Wọn ò lè rí Ondo wọn ò rí ogun òróǹdó kó lọ because a ti build but most times wọ́n bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ moat Bìní náà ń dárúkọ Bìní Ondo dẹ̀ ni moat yẹn mo ìgbà moat yẹn wọ́n ta ilẹ̀ yẹn fáwọn Catholic ilẹ̀ ní Catholic Girls Secondary School wà.
Ẹ má bínú mọ́mì.
Yes.
Ṣé mo lè béèrè ìbéèrè kan lọ́wọ́ yín? Ìbéèrè ṣé ẹ lè sọ history Ondo fún wa díẹ̀?
Kí lẹ wí?
Ṣé ẹ lè sọ history Ondo?
Màá lọ bí àwọn tó mọ̀ dáadáa ni o.
Okay, kò sí wàhálà.
Àtọ̀nà wọ́n gbé mi sí Port Harcourt mo dẹ̀ dàgbà sí Ìbàdàn àkọ́ máa ń lọ ilé mi.
Okay, ṣé mo during the
wọ́n máa kábíyèsí pé wọ́n lè kọ something fún mi.
Okay, I know about the history of Ondo.
Ìlà mẹ́ta ló wà grandmother mi ìlà mẹ́ta ló wà lójú wọn. Wọ́n wá láti Ìṣẹ̀ àti Ẹ̀fọ̀n Alàyè but wọ́n ti Ondo ni wọ́n. Bàbá ọmọ tó bí ìlà Ondo náà kọ sí wọn lójú. Ondo dẹ̀ là ń claim. Ogun ló lé wọn débẹ̀ o.
Okay, ẹ má bínú.
Rántí ojú òkú.
Ẹ má bínú. Mo ní ẹ má bínú. Mo sọ̀rọ̀ Ondo, mo dẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ Èkìtì dáadáa. Mo sọ̀rọ̀ a lot. Mo sọ̀rọ̀ nípa mo ti gbọ́ ẹ má bínú. Ẹ má bínú. Wọ́n ti d'Èkìtì nìkan ni mo ń dárúkọ. Ẹ má bínú. Mo ti gbọ́ ẹ má bínú.
Member House of Chiefs ni the former Òṣèmọ̀wé.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni ẹ má bínú. Mo tàn mọ́ Ondo dáadáa o. Dáadáa. Ẹ má jẹ́ sọ àwọn tó mọ̀ no mo tàn mọ́ in fact wọ́n gbọ́ mi gan báyìí níwájú tán wò mí báyìí. Ẹ ṣe dájókòó tán wò mí tán àwọn Èkìtì àwọn Ondo ló wà ní ráǹdì mi. Ẹ ṣe mà. Mo fẹ́ bí léèrè gbèrè kan. Ṣé bí moat ní odi?
Moat ìyẹn wọ́n tòtò ni wọ́n gbẹ ráùndì odi ìlú.
Òun náà ni òun ni wọ́n ń pè ní mo mọ̀ gbogbo ìlú kò ń ṣe.
Àwọn òyìnbó náà ni wọ́n bá moat nígbà tí mo wọ secondary school.
Ó sì wà ní kò ń ṣe kò ń ṣe Ondo nìkan ló ní moat, kò dẹ̀ ń ṣe Benin nìkan ló ní. Ní ẹjọ́ mọ́mí ṣẹlẹ̀ mute mà, ariwo àwọn ọmọ gbọ́ ohun ọmọ ní.
What to mute?
Okay, there is a particular even ní Ìbàdàn tẹ́ bá wo bí TNTA wà ní Ìbàdàn wọ́n pè ní àgọ́ odi. So tẹ́ bá wo ẹ̀yìn NTA yẹn, so tẹ́ bá wo ẹ̀yìn NTA níbi tí Ìbàdàn wà, ibẹ̀ kíní odi tí wọ́n mọ ráǹdì Ìbàdàn yẹn sì wà ń bẹ̀ tó ti wá ń dàbí ẹ̀rí. Àwọn tó bá mọ area yẹn máa mọ̀ pé ilẹ̀ ni wọ́n ń dà sí, so dirty and everything. Omi ò flow ń bẹ̀ torí it was àwọn odi tí wọ́n mọ nígbà yẹn nìyẹn round Ìbàdàn city. So that defensive structure was a general thing from Ife to Ondo to Benin. It was a structure. Torí ẹ̀ ní tó máa rí táwọn anyway, Benin náà ara wọn ni wá, so I cannot continue, I cannot even criticize them because alára ló ń gbára ga. Tá máa ní the biggest wall, moat ni. Ẹ má bínú mọ́ mi. I will start speaking more and paying attention to that axis more. And start putting it more in my lectures. Ẹ má bínú. Ṣé gbọ́? Ẹ ṣé mà.
Thank you very much.
Ẹ ṣé mà.
Ẹ ṣé fún enlightenment fún wa.
Ẹ ṣé mà.
You can't talk please.
Ẹ ṣeun ma. Ẹ pẹ́ fún wa ma. You have only one person who has not spoken, and that is this person. You may have to close the space. I will do it. You have just 2 minutes.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Mine is just a commendation because at least people I told about here too, I can now confidently say that they told me they were listening on Facebook. Someone in Ghana was listening on via YouTube. So I must commend the entire team. It is a great initiative for you guys to pull this through. I'm really grateful and I commend everybody. May God bless all the Yorubas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Awudewi. Are, you want to respond to that?
Great. It was 3 people that made it happen. 3 major people, 4 people that made this possible. Mo fẹ́ kẹ́ kí the head of graphic design, TYF Worldwide, Mr. Omis, in Germany. God will continue to be with you. Mo kí yín o. Even though Madam, if I can mention one, they might lo another name. Madam Ayola, láti lọ Island. Ọlọ́run ó wà pẹ̀lú yín gbogbo ìgbà. For the past 7 days, they've not slept. She's not slept for 3 hours or 4 hours a day to make this happen. I'm so Ọlọ́run àwa. She's the quality manager of TYF Worldwide. I also want to thank the admin and marketing and brand manager of TYF, Madam Ajoke Ọlọ́run àwa pẹ̀lú yín. She's also they just soaked everything there, piecing up our and they are expanding our capacity. You are going to see a lot of capacities. I also want to thank operation manager, Mr. Jolomi. Ìgbà tó di level kan wọ́n fẹ́ sá lọ. We were like because it was just too much. I'm so grateful. I want to host. I want to sorrow, Mr. Jolomi. I know after this, immediately we finish this program. I know the way you are going to sleep tonight. My hand gets in 360. To me, because I go, but I'm done with this. And I also want to thank the head of IT, the head of the IT of TYF Worldwide, all the way from Manchester area, in the United Kingdom, Mr. Angela. They, is patient, getting things done and being very, very patient, because sometimes they are very calm. They just ensure that this thing is done. Then the key, Mr. Jagaban, at our powerful stakeholders, members of TYF, Mr. Oyenuga, láti àwọn èèyàn mi, àwọn Mr. Jagaban, Baba Ondo ni wọ́n, Mr. Oyenuga, Baba Ekiti, Baba Ijebu, everybody ló wà ní TYF. Akure, everybody Bini, we are all of us are in TYF. I'm so grateful, Mr. Anjola, Dada. I know what you've done for the past 7-8 years, and God will continue to be with you. Mr. Ifeno Mokin, God will continue to be with you. So I want to just say, I cannot do this on my own. So it is impossible. The secretariat of TYF, the secretary of TYF, I want to be by one way or the other. But I want critical stakeholders in here. They are the vision, what we've not been able to do for 2 years. They said, we are going to do it, and they did it, despite all the limitations. Hopefully, our TikTok, IG, and on our Vanity Wife Radio now, it will be live also in the next few weeks, so that people can also get engagement. We are just starting by the special grace of God. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀.
Ẹ ṣeun gan. Ẹ ṣeun gan. Like
Ṣé kí n sáré ṣe vote of thanks?
ẹni sọ̀rọ̀.
Yes, okay.
As I read to saw, we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Facebook, YouTube, and we are here, and also on our pack handle also. So it's a lot of things put together to make sure that we are here, and because we appreciate the fact that you always turn up for us, and there's a need to reach out to other people outside X, and it's not been easy. We put things together, and we are grateful for those that did the real work. I'm saying this because I know what I'm talking about. Those that did the real work, I would say I commend you too. And we hope to get bigger. By next week, we get better. And Yorubaland, the consciousness we have built on X will go beyond X and reach everywhere. So we got someone from
Mr. Dulomi. Sorry, I had to come in. I know you want to. It is not X. Shall understand? It is not
Okay.
X. I want to quickly come. That's why I said let me give the vote of thanks. Sorry, I had to quickly come in. Thank you so much, everyone. We are so grateful. If you want to be part of TYF, you want to join us, we are really, really waiting. Go to our website and put in your details. You'll be taken to any chapters of that you like. We have the following chapters. We are in Lagos, we are in Ogun, we are in Delta, we are in Edo, we are in Kwara, we are in Osun, we are in Ekiti, we are in Ondo, we are in Oyo, we are in Benin Republic, we are in France, we are in Belgium, we are in Togo, we are in Ghana, we are in Sierra Leone, anywhere you are, where the Yoruba people are. And we have good news on the horizon. We've also made headway into Cuba. We've made headway into Cuba. We've made headway into Latin America. We've made headway into Brazil. So we are everywhere. We're on ground, even amongst the less privileged. So what we are doing is to use this platform that God has used humanity to create, to reach millions and millions of people. That is why we preach. That is why we are beyond. In fact, there are more TY followers on Facebook than on Twitter. And there is a powerful followership also on TikTok. So we are so grateful for this opportunity. We give all praise to Olodumare. And if you really want to be part of us, please do not hesitate to join us and give us your details. This organization, this institution belongs to each and every one of us. And tomorrow, TYF is surely going to be on, tomorrow TYF is going to be on, we are going to be in Abuja. And what are we going to be doing in Abuja? We are going to be doing the PVC drive at Saburi Village, FCT. If you are in the Federal Capital Territory, our people, in fact, we have a lot of refreshment. There will be food. We are going to pre-register you, help you with re-registration of your PVC. Just come. You are going to enjoy, and our people are going to really, really take care of you. The deputy coordinator and the coordinator, Dr. Adebodun, Mr. Olanrewaju Saheed, and other executives of TYF in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, they will be there. They will be there for hours, trying to motivate and ensure that we help our people in collection of PVC and also aggregate our people to have a voting block. So we are not just going to be in Abuja. From Abuja, everywhere there is a Yoruba community within Nigeria, we are going to be there. And I want to thank all those that believed in the message of TYF. All of you that has really helped TYF one way or the other, financially, in prayers. Those of you that pray for us every day, that ensure that that you are ensuring that we are able to do all this. It is God for me in particular, and other people that God has placed around me, for us to continue to do this despite all the attacks, despite all the challenges. It is only this can only happen through the grace of Almighty God, and we know that we are surely going to get better. We are surely going to get better. A lot of things are surely going to happen at TYF. We have some challenges. If we are really seeking for more help, if you can help us. Like I said, we have over 40 branches of TYF, from campus branches, continental branches, country branches, state branches, even to local government all over the world. And many of us are doing this voluntarily, pro bono. We do not have any support from maybe one APC or PDP is giving us. No, it is the widow's mite of young Yoruba men and women, both old Yoruba men and women all over the world, that has been keeping us going. We would need your support at all times, so that we'll continue to be the voice in the wilderness, so that the Yoruba civilization will continue to thrive. We are not doing this for our own sake, but for the sake of thousands of the many generations that are coming behind us, so that they can have somewhere to call it home. Thank you so much. Let us see the entire TYF members throughout the world. I am so grateful. Those of you walking on the ground. I know a lot of you are able to have this consciousness on Twitter, some on Facebook, and some of you on the ground. And as it is, we are happy to say there are more members of TYF offline than online. But we'll continue to use this medium, because where are we going to get a 1,000 lecture theater or room or house where we are going to be able to talk to thousands of people listening to us across the world? Just like when we started Yoruba Ronu 4 years ago. 4 years ago, when we started this powerful space called Yoruba Ronu, it used to be on Sunday. Sometimes we do it 2 times a month, 4 times a month. Now it has become an institution, and we are upscaling. We are expanding. To those of you watching me live on YouTube, those of you watching me live on TYF Park, on our X handle, to those of you watching me live on Facebook, ojú tẹ́ fi ń wò mí ò ní fọ́ o. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ dẹ̀ ń gbọ́ ohùn mi, gbogbo etí tẹ́ fi ń gbọ́ mi kò ní di. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín, mo dúpẹ́ o. Olódùmarè á máa ràn wá lọ́wọ́ o. Lágbára Ọlọ́run á máa pè yín lọ́sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀. Mr. the operation manager, I think I'll give a vote of thanks. So that we can tell people what we are doing. And if you really want to be part of the park, the 3 million PVC drive tanshi, by next week, ní agbára Olódùmarè, a ti máa ṣe capacity wa, so that our informations wa ó máa scroll lọ, so ẹ máa rí. Kò ní nípasẹ̀ máa pe number. By God's grace, we are Ọlọ́run á fún wa. Mo nígbàgbọ́ nínú àwọn tọ́lọ́run fi tì wá. So, Mr. Jolomi, aago mẹ́wàá ti lù, wákàtí mẹ́ta gẹ́gẹ́. It's been a wonderful and beautiful session. Mr. Jolomi, ẹ jọ̀ọ́, ẹ lè pe nọ́mbà yẹn káwọn èèyàn kí wọ́n pè, kí wọ́n send the details wọn sí. If they want to join us anywhere they are, tàmá àti jẹ́ Yorùbá. Ẹni tó bá ní skills ni, ẹni tó bá lẹ́nìtì tó fẹ́ fún wa ni. A dẹ̀ ń sọ lóòótọ́, a ní ọ́fíìsì wa tá à ń ṣe. The TYF, the Yoruba Resource Center, the TYF Resource Center. We've had a lot of challenges where a lot of people ganged up against us because they didn't want a Yoruba organization in that particular building. So if you really want to assist us one way or the other, it may be in any kind, and to bani anything, some people have given us some ish or your calabash design that must, in fact, it's going to be for the office of TYF ní Ìbàdàn, because 2 offices are going on at the same time. It's possible that Ìbàdàn office will be going on live before the Lagos office. So God will continue to be with us. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ àti gbogbo wa.
Gonsa. Gonsa. Somebody's mic is up and it's making okay. It's silent now. Gonsa. If you have any information on TY for any of our programs, I need information, send your inquiry to this number plus 234 90 10 575 121. It's on the jumbo trove. And you can make an inquiry and respond to you in real time. The number again, 2+234 90 10 575 121. If you want to join, don't know how to navigate the website. Is it about the PVC? Is it about having your PVC? Is it about joining any of our teams, our chapters? We'll be available to respond to you. God, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here every night. For the depth of our hearts, we say thank you. TYF says thank you for the depth of our hearts. And we appreciate you. Marry appreciates you too, and it will continue to bless every one of us up to our 10th generation. So I'd like to say on behalf of TYF, good night and have a lovely night rest. We'll meet again on Monday for Nationalism Hour, while we anticipate for the next Yoruba Ronu series next Saturday.